The Oruga Podcast.
Somehow somebody's always looking the other way. Now look at these guys. They look busy, right?
Like, if there's a quiet moment, and it's for some reason, like, kind of in waves where I get really bad with it, and then other times I'm like, I think I'm fantastic at it, I'm in control and all that. But I remember if it's, like, quiet or there's some kind of, like, you know, maybe somebody goes to the bathroom before I could or whatever.
Right.
My hand will immediately open my phone and I swipe to Instagram. And I remember I caught myself. I was like, well, I clicked it and I was swiping through and I was like, wait, what am I doing? I don't want to be on here. And so I swiped out of it. And so then I'm looking at all my apps and I swiped over and I clicked it again. And I was like, what the fuck was that?
Right.
What the hell, man?
Yeah.
You literally just told yourself not to do that. And then I actively fed into that addiction.
Welcome to the Op. Be sure to check out Oruga's shop. We make shirts and hoodies that are comfortable and stylish. Follow @ShopOruga and visit orugastore.com. That is ORUGA store.com. Beat produced by Saipuda. Check him out at saipudabeats.com.
Welcome to the Op. Shout out to our Irish listeners. We have a few of them, and fucking, I don't even know where, but we literally have like, I don't know, 4 or 5 Irish listeners every week, which is like
Do you get to
sick.
see like the map or something, like where everyone is?
Yeah, kind of.
That's
So like, I get to see in the United States what cities are like, you know, what do we have a big audience in what cities, and then I get to see like country, like which countries are our main listeners. So like 90-something% is America, and then we have like 8% Irish.
Wow.
Which is fucking awesome, actually.
That is pretty fucking
And the craziest thing is I don't know how they found us at all. But like, shout out to them. I mean, like, if you guys want to email us and you know, talk to us, that'd be great.
That is pretty cool.
Owners of Oruga at gmail.com. But yeah, that's just like kind of super random. But also the funniest thing on the platform that hosts our the podcast, they have this thing where they list the views on Earth, the views on Mars, the views on Jupiter, but it's obviously all the other planets are 0%, but they still recognize that like we're in the solar system, and I fucking love that.
That's pretty cool, but like, wow.
Yeah, because like it would be so fucking cool, like when we actually start colonizing Mars, and then to see you get a little bit of viewership.
3% in Mars. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
We got Martians.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, dude. I like the whole like, oh, hey, we actually are on this rock. Like this isn't just like. I don't know. I feel like our culture is really grounded to Earth, and like really like kind of almost like Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. Like we're really just like kind of just stuck on this rock, and we're like, there's nothing else. We just gotta make do, which is like really, I don't know. I don't really get it. You know.
I have no idea how it's gonna be if we go across. Like, would you be willing to be like with the first party that goes up there?
For sure.
Really?
Well, I don't know about first party.
That'd be terrifying, man.
But that's the thrill about the whole like being on the frontier. Like I guess there was the thrill of being an American going through the frontier of like you're the only people out here. You're gonna be colonizing this motherfucker, and like there's kind of a romance to being like I'm the first human to be on Mars. I'm gonna be crazy. Colonizing Mars. They're gonna name a fucking city on Mars after me. You know, like obviously that's an egotistical take, but like.
But I know what you mean. At least like the recognition for taking that chance. That kind of I like that. That makes sense.
There's got to be something like so like because you know I was born on this rock, and to go beyond this rock with just a little bit of human technology is so damn impressive. You know, to be able to go beyond the fucking atmosphere, we make artificial air, we have these artificial habitats just to keep these body bags alive. And through all that effort and on the engineering, to be able to actually... I mean, it's not going to be great living. You're not going to be living on Mars and be like, this is fucking way better on Earth. It's not going to be. You're going to have to, like, you know, kind of adapt. I mean, that's, you know, that's the main thing of the... you're just going to have to adapt. Especially with the gravity. The gravity is, like, not
that'd be fun as hell. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, but it'd be fun in the beginning, but deteriorating over a long period of time. Because Mars is 2/3 of Earth. Okay, that means 2/3 of the gravity, and then your bone density will start deteriorating after a long period of time.
Oh, whoa!
Same thing with like people in space. Obviously, they experience 0G. So if they spend longer than a year in space, their bone density deteriorates.
Wow!
And it's hard once they go back to Earth. They have to have like a 2-year. What do they call that? Not relapse, but like a 2-year.
Almost some kind of treatment to like. Do they like? Almost
rehab. They have to go through rehab to like build up their muscles again, to build up their bone density, and to like really like make sure that their body's still functioning properly. Is there's just like you know, we were born with all this pressure. We're born with all this gravity, and to take that away from us is like really dehumanizing. I mean, like, that's like that's a main way we function.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, you know, it would be fun to play basketball up there, but I guess that would already screw up your knees, so that would be even worse if the bone density is going down.
That would be really cool, though, because you could have bigger fields.
Oh, shit, yeah.
You could have 3D fields, too, because you'd be jumping up, and then you could go onto platforms, and, like, you know the 3D chess?
Yeah.
You could have, like, a 3D, like, baseball game.
Like jumping to different layers I like that.
Literally, dude. Literally. That'd be cool. They probably will start creating new sports on different planets just because of the gravity, right? I mean, it'd be like, football, we can't do that on this planet. It's not feasible. We have to do X, Y, and Z.
And I guess people will, like, I don't know, I won't say, you know, like I know, but, you know, people would adapt to the gravity, I would say, like, over time, but I don't know how long that would take, obviously, because...
You never know, man.
Yeah.
It could really create a new species, like a new subspecies of humans that have to adapt to that, because we've adapted to Earth, obviously. I mean, like, that's where we've evolved. It's where we came from.
Looking for comfortable? Looking for comfortable and stylish apparel? Something right up your alley? Oruga has a collection for you. Monochrome features sleek black and white designs. The Workweek in Thermal features pops of vibrant color. Check out orugastore.com for unique styles and streetwear.
I mean, after 100 generations, you would really start to see the differences between, you know, Mars people, you know, Jupiter's moons. Like,
that's gonna be cool. I'm actually,
so cool.
Well, I hope, you know, we get to live forever kind of thing. Would you be down to do that? Like, some kind of pill to live forever?
Oh, I think after 1,000 years, I'd be like, let's cut the shit.
Oh, yeah.
But, like...
I mean, technology is going to keep on going on, you know?
Yeah. You know, I'm a naturalist. I think that, like, you know, that's a great thought, but at the end of the day, it's not here right now, so I can't even fantasize about how glorious that would be. The only thing that gives me comfort is that I technically live through my children. It's the only way I can really rationalize it. Is that, like, oh... You know, we might not have the same consciousness. I might not be exactly into that human being. But the thing is that, like, you know, it's still your DNA being processed in a different environment. So, like...
Well, it reminds me of what my dad says. He always uses the phrase like ripples, like in waves in water or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's how he kind of early on taught me how, how family and even just to strangers that you can kind of leave an impact on people, and those waves keep on going. And so in a way, I feel like people do live forever, in a not a actual physical way, obviously,
for
but
sure,
in that kind of way. And that kind of makes me think of that, where there's a reason why we have a timer,
Mm-hmm.
and so to go against that would kind of feel icky. But at the same time, yeah, that fantasy is, exciting and all, but when you're faced with it, it's like, oh God, what the fuck is happening? I really should not be here, kind of thing.
The thing that would probably, like, you give me a pill, I get to live for 1,000 years. That's great. But everybody I know, and I will know, will die. So it's like,
whoa, I didn't think of that.
I'll be the only one around that, like, remembers that shit. So it would just be hard. It would be hard to be the, like, let's say I lived for 2,000 years, all right, and I see the crumbling of the Roman Empire. I see the ups and downs of the European countries. I see, I see the first atomic bombs being dropped. And then I'm here in 2023, and I'm like, do you guys not remember any of this shit? Like, we should worry about this. And then everyone else is just having that such infantile kind of way of living.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Because everyone's just, like, so wrapped up in their egos, so wrapped up in the idea of death and that I'm dying soon. I need to get my shit done. I need to lay an impact on this world, and I need to put my fingerprints everywhere because I need to make sure that my legacy is lived, and like all that kind of crap. And then you're just like, man, you're kind of missing the point.
Chill out, man.
Yeah,
and then
just chill out. Just relax a little. Go to Fiji, have a beer. Like, it's just, yeah. I mean, like, if that pill existed, I would be cool with it if the people I cared about were also taking that pill, and be like, we can do this together. Maybe some of the motherfuckers I don't like be like, oh, we're not gonna go. But just kidding. That's where you start to create dystopias.
Oh, that's a good point. Almost like
you got to have everybody take it.
Yeah,
you can't just have one person take it, and then you would have to
only
really
the elites or some crap like that. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah. That's where it goes to, like, have you heard about the, like, Neuralink and, like, how?
Yeah, that's insane,
dude. How they have to drill I don't know if it's a dime-sized or a quarter-sized hole into your skull to connect probes to your brain. Yeah, bro.
Jesus. Because I knew that they started doing the human trials recently, but I don't know how far that went. I think no one died. At least I've heard.
It went pretty well.
That's like, so I don't know which. I'm happy or sad about that in a weird way.
Some blind people got full sight. Some disabled. I should say paraplegics, not paraplegic, because that means that you have no. How should I say this?
Is it
paralyzed? I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Is that paraplegic? Am I tripping?
I do not know.
It doesn't matter.
Probably
Let's just say
sounds like it, but I'm not fully sure. But a paralyzed individual. Yeah.
Let's just say paralyzed, just to be safe. So paralyzed people can actually be cured of being paralyzed through the Neuralink. Yeah, bro.
Holy crap! Because I guess it's like tied to the stem, the nerves and all that.
Mm-hmm. And it's like juicing your nerves. So once you start getting your nerves juiced, you can start having better memory. You can have better brain function. You can have more access to data, because it's not like our access to data is limited by our eyes. Okay, or our ears. That's how we take in data at this moment. Is either I'm going to listen to a podcast and I'm going to put it in my ears, or I'm going to look at a book, or I'm going to look at my phone, and I'm going to read data, or I'm going to see data. And that's how we take in information right now. But once you can just plug in your brain and just have that data just shot to your nervous system and into your brain, I don't know. I just remember this interview with Elon Musk, and he's like, you'll be 10 times more efficient. as a human being. You'll be more able to access information. You'll be more efficient. You'll have instant memory, which is also scary. I like not being able to remember things. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I hope there's like a delete button on some of that stuff.
Yeah, because it's nice to like. I mean, like, there's like those things you want to forget, like those embarrassing things you've done in your early life, and you're like, ugh. You still cringe about them, and you're like, ugh.
I try to like make it into like, making me a stronger person today, but it's like, nah, that's not. There's no lesson there. That was just rough.
That was just embarrassing. Yeah. And it's like, I think like my mind really does like control alt delete those memories entirely, which is, I would assume that's like beneficial a little, right? So it's not like fucking up my thought patterns all the time, so I'm not constantly like being dragged down by these bad memories. But with Neuralink, and I remember everything, can I forget some shit? Like, I don't want to remember everything. Like, I don't need to remember every damn thing.
It reminds me, I've heard Elon Musk bring up how he argues that we're already part robot in a way. We're already like cyborgs in a way because of our phones, being with us all the time, and in a way it almost substitutes knowledge at times. Like you don't really have to know everything nowadays, or at least a certain topic or whatever. Now you can look it up and just tackle that problem just from looking it up. But I understand that can be okay, maybe that our knowledge on things can be to the phone, but when it comes to like, I don't know, but like emotional stuff, I don't know. I don't want that. I understand maybe that we can use our phones for that, but
for sure,
it kind of freaks me out.
What freaks me out is that like 100 years ago, people had no access to instant images. Nobody had a phone where they could snap a picture and then have that photo forever. Like at least 100 years ago, photos deteriorated. Like you had to keep that in like a special place behind glass if you really wanted to keep it. Now it's like I can keep photos from 2008 when or like ever since I had the ability to keep photos. Now I have those photos, which is really strange. And I find the whole like I recently deleted Snapchat. And the
good on you. I need to. It's
dude, and the whole memories thing were dragging me down because it's like a year ago you were at your happiest point in your life.
I was thinking about that.
It's like I just want to like go. I hate that. I hate being reminded about what I was doing in the past. I just want to think about this moment right now, how I can improve my life right now. I don't need to see that. Oh, I was hanging out with those people, or I was doing that shit, and that's just one part of it, the memories, right? But then there's the other part of Snapchat, which also just deteriorates me, which is the stories. Stories are just like, what a waste of fucking time. You just look and absorb what other people are doing and what other people want to tell you. You're not looking at what people are actually doing. You're looking at a fictitious little photo that someone's taking. Be like,
certain perspective.
Hey, look at what I'm doing. It's like, and it's, some people are really genuine about what they do, and some and they really give you like a little snapshot of what they're actually doing in life. But then some people are just like trying to do it for the gram, just trying to do this fake fucking photo to make me feel jealous or whatever, and it fucking works on me. Let me tell you, I'm an infant when it comes to like when it comes to stories and the whole FOMO thing. Like I only get a little granular, like a little bit of like FOMO, but it's still there. You know what I mean? It's still like a palpable thing, and it's like such a waste of time for me just to even like focus on. To even spend 15 minutes a day on Snapchat is such a fucking waste. I'm not doing anything with it. Like I might as well like do something else. Check my emails at least. Even that's a fucking waste sometimes. But at least it's not just emptiness. And I just find Snapchat to be so empty.
It almost feels like it reminds me of like when you swipe on like, let's say in YouTube Shorts or like on TikTok or whatever it might be. Right. You almost like if you're asked like, hey, what's 5 of the videos that you watched? most likely, it seems like, at least I've asked a few friends I've tried that on, and they cannot. And I've been asked, and I've asked myself, and I can't. Like, it's almost like you're stimulated for a little bit, and then there was nothing tangible there. There was nothing solid. There was nothing.
Right.
I mean, obviously real, but even like I gained nothing. It was truly like a trick of the brain that I feel like I was doing something, that I'm actually being productive. But
right.
in reality, I'm just looking at that. And with the memories thing, I feel like it's like when you go back to, like how you're saying, looking to the future instead of the past.
Sure.
Back in the day, people, when they wanted to look into the past, they actively chose and went to their attic or whatever and pulled out a bunch of old photos.
Okay.
And there's stories, and it's stories behind each photo. And on top of that, like, you know, people weren't taking every single angle of every single shot of every single thing, and they're all shitty photos of the one event that they never even paid attention to when they were there.
Right.
And nowadays, you get notifications that's saying, like, this time year ago, and it's like, I would like to decide if I'm ready to see some old-ass shit, you know? I don't want to be forced to see that, and then it's so bizarre.
It's so bizarre.
Do you want to collect a free NFT? Well, head over to OpenSea and visit @ShopOruga to view our collections of digital art. Our most recent collection, Citation, is available now. Check it out.
I have like Google Photos. And even Google Photos does this garbage where they're like, check out what you were doing a year ago. And it's like I said, if I want to go and see what I was doing a year ago, I will scroll to a year ago. I don't need to actively be acknowledging what I was doing a year ago. I don't need to be. That's where it's going to get creepy. It's because, like, now at this age, we only have documentation of, like, maybe 10 years max. Max, we have 10 years of photos and garbage, right? But when we get to our parents' age, our grandparents' age, it'd be like, check out what you were doing at 25. And you're like...
Dude, that would eat me. Yeah, me up, man.
That would eat me alive too, because like at least like when I talk to my grandparents and I just talk to older people, they're like, they barely can remember their childhood. You know what I mean? Like it seems like they know bits and pieces, but like they don't know actively every single thing that they were doing in 1972. You know, so it's like, but we will. When we'll look at, you know, the year 2030, and we'll have all the documentation of 2030. We'll have all the years, all the documents, all the computer files will be saved. You can go into IBM or YouTube and be like, blah, 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 blah. There it is. That's all the shit I was doing. And it's like, like
that's freaky.
Freaky as fuck. And that's where it's like, the whole documentation thing, I'm just not into it. Like, in the perfect scenario, I don't have a cell phone, and like I'll have my computer. Maybe I'll have an iPad for working as well. Yeah. But like, man, in the perfect world, I don't have a cell phone because like the whole instant gratification is really kind of fucking with me. Because like, and that's the thing, I notice it's fucking with me, but it's got to be fucking with the whole fucking world. Because the whole instant gratification of being able to go onto my phone and be stimulated, it's like a mild sedation. Literally, you're just sitting there and you're like, for 30 minutes, you're just idly scrolling or just doing some bullshit, going through these habits of like, oh, I'm going to check YouTube, I'm going to check Instagram, I'm going to check the news, I'm going to check my text messages, I'm going to look through my voicemails, I'm going to go on my email. And you're just like monotonously just checking all this garbage, and you're not actively doing this. It's just force of habit. Yeah. And that's what bugs the shit out of me, is the force of habit. Because I was noticing the other day, I was going on YouTube, and I was going on Spotify, and I was going on my email, and then I was doing that on a rotation. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just doing this out of habit. I literally like set my phone down. I was like, I'm insane right now. Like, I have no self-control. And it's like, but it's such a mild no self-control. It's not like I'm going out and driving my car on the freeway at 130 miles per hour, but it's like...
It's still, like, messing with the most valuable resource, and that's your time. And so that's why I take that stuff so seriously, and I feel like a lot of people, at least it's hard to take seriously because it's so much around us. I mean, I've done that before where I've, like, if there's a quiet moment, and it's for some reason, like, kind of in waves where I get really bad with it, and then other times I'm like, I think I'm fantastic at it, I'm in control and all that, but I remember if it's, like, quiet or there's some kind of, like, you know, maybe somebody goes to the bathroom before I could or whatever.
Right.
My hand will immediately open my phone and I swipe to Instagram. And I remember I caught myself. I was like, well, I clicked it and I was swiping through and I was like, wait, what am I doing? I don't want to be on here. And so I swiped out of it. And so then I'm looking at all my apps and I swiped over and I clicked it again. And I was like, what the fuck was that?
Right.
What the hell, man?
Yeah.
You literally just told yourself not to do that. And then I actively fed into that addiction. And I do think that there is and I think, I can't remember the individual, but he's been on like Joe Rogan's podcast, I believe, before, and Tom Segura's, I think. But he talks about dopamine a lot and how I think it's such a big problem nowadays, and I've seen more people nowadays on their phones on the road more than ever before, and I thought in a way we would maybe get a little bit smarter, like we're introduced to it when we're younger, maybe, and so maybe we get more conscious of it, but no, it's just it's like, because seeing how big of an industry adverts are, it makes me feel like it is like this tug and pull of our dopamine with everything. I mean, everything, plants, something that's natural can give us dopamine and give us some kind of, stimulus, but that's healthy kind of stuff. That's okay. But when I've noticed is like when I wake up, and I wake up, that's can be thrown around a lot, but when I realize that I'm kind of too far gone in that kind of world of stimulus and I'm not paying attention and stuff, is when, like, it's a beautiful day and I'm like walking to my car and I'm like not looking up and I'm like on my phone. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell, man? Right. And it's so bizarre because then, like a week later I'll be pretty darn good and I won't be on my phone like all the time and I won't respond to people all the time and I'm okay with that. It just feels good, Yeah. But
it's the instant gratification. That's like with plant, like, I have lots of plants, and like there's no instant gratification with plants. It's a long time before I see a new leaf or it gets a little bit greener, it looks a little healthier.
It's not like a Marvel movie or anything.
Yeah, I don't just put it in the ground and it's like poof, there it is, hocus pocus, like here's a new fucking plant. Like, no, it's over a long period of time. And the instant gratification, I think, is like the main reason why I'm a consumer of shit. Like going to a store and putting in your credit card, that's a real weird thing. I've really started to notice that. I do get a little bit of a dopamine kick when I go to the store and I put my credit card in, and it's the oh shit, it went through. Okay. Yes,
I have money. Yes.
I know I have money in my bank, but now it tells me I have money in my bank. Like it's like such a little dopamine kick that, like, I'm starting to notice that, like, most of, like, our economy and, like, what's attached to money is a real instant gratification to make sure that you have no impulse control and that you do get the instant gratification and then that you get that little bit of a dopamine kick, but then it ceases immediately after you're done with it. And so you're like, I'm going to have to do that tomorrow. I'm going to have to do that the day after tomorrow, too, just to make sure I can get that little bit of a dopamine kick. I need that instant gratification. And all these things have kind of come around the last, I want to say, like 30 years, right? Because, like, handing cash over to a cashier is not an instant gratification. At least to me, right?
It sucks. I mean, I feel kind of shitty when I'm like, oh, fuck, that's $20. It looked better when I just put in my card, but...
And you just see the 20.83, and you're like, that's nothing. But I hand the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you pass it to the cash, you're like, fuck.
That's like...
I need that cash.
Oh,
that paper. That's valuable paper to me. And it's also like the older generations are, okay, cell phones, technology. It's really boomed in the last 20 years. I mean, we used to have all paper files, and now it's all digital, and it's a really new concept, even for like the older generation, the parents of our time right now, like the 40s to 50s. They are struggling with the instant gratification just as much as we are, the younger generations, and they're stuck on their phones, they're stuck on Facebook, they're stuck on, I know parents who are on Snapchat too, and it's like they are just as absorbed in it as we are, and they spend just as much time on their cell phones as we do. They have no realization that it's really affecting all these things. And like in how they communicate or how their family dynamics are going, or like, do you love your family members? Maybe you should spend some more time with them. Maybe you should have more eye-to-eye contact with them, because like you just are spending yourself, you're on your phone, your kids are on your iPads, somebody's
iPad
watching
kids.
TV over there. iPad kids, man. There's a lot of them now. And there's a lot of just parents who just giving the fuck up. And they're just like, give the kid the goddamn iPad and he'll just shut up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, you have no idea what you're doing right now. You're about to create a child that hasn't been created before. We have no idea what happens when you take an infant and then raise it up a little bit, maybe 4 or 5 years old, you give it an iPad, and then from then on, we have really no idea how those human beings will turn out. And it's like, will they be better? I don't really, not as a human standpoint, not as like, oh, are we having conversations? Do you feel empathy? Like, the whole like human experience is kind of being altered. And that shit scares the hell out of me, because I really do feel like there's gonna be soon a separation of like people who are addicted to technology and fully buy into everything technology, and then there's gonna be the naturalists, like the hippie fucking kind of like, man, I don't really like those kind of computers, I don't like staring at blue light, really hurts my eyes. And like just that separation, that's kind of the inner battle that I'm having right now. Is the hippie in me that's like, no technology, no nothing, that's the demons. And then there's the technology side of me. It's like, I need it to earn some money. There's no way I'm gonna be able to not be interfacing with technology and not be able to make my dollars. Like, I'm gonna have to, like, for my career, I'm gonna have to deal with technology, because that is the way the world is going right now, is technology driven. It doesn't matter if you're a fucking cashier, if you're a banker, if you're a fucking manager, if you're a CEO, anything. If you're a grunt to a fucking CEO, you're gonna be dealing with technology soon. And I like that audio. They're doing construction outside of my house. So sorry, audience. Eventually, one day, we will have the soundproof studio, but that day is not
dynamic.
Today.
I like it. The life around us.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of like how do you feel about like the dating world right now, because of that like idea of. Well, I'll just leave it at that. But in relating maybe to what we were just talking about dopamine and instant gratification and whatnot like that.
I was talking to a chick yesterday, and I was talking about her dating life, and I was like, "What's going on with your dating life?" And blah 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 blah. And she was like, "I only date people on Tinder. I only swipe on people, and if they're physically attractive, then I will, swipe right or what they, I'll like them."
Yeah.
But then if they have a shitty text conversation, then I'm out. And I'm like, whoa, damn. And that just scares the shit out of me. That there's like, that, okay, your physical appearance is really all that matters. Mm-hmm. And can you keep a conversation? Can you keep a texting conversation? Mm-hmm. Which those are two things that are just like, what? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people I've met. There's so many women I've talked to. And I'm like, you're very attractive. Mm-hmm. And you talk to them, you're like, this isn't for me. This, like, your personality doesn't really meet up what I need. Yeah. I need, like, just
which
like,
just doesn't mesh. You can kind of feel it out, early on. Yeah.
And then there's sense. Like some people that are just like maybe a little less attractive, but you're like, your personality's fucking gold. Like this is, and you have good chemistry. But now with the whole Tinder and the way, like, that kind of situation is like, it all matters about physicality and how you take photos. Oh, do you have good photos? Which is such a limited way to look at a human being. And it's like, that shit scares me. And it's like the way I want to date is just like, I fantasize about meeting someone not through my cell phone. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I fantasize about meeting the love of my life. And just a haphazard, like, oh, I was at the coffee shop, or oh, I was like doing this activity and I met somebody. To meet somebody through the cell phone is like really strange, because that's really just kind of dehumanizing.
Yeah.
The cell phone's only been around for 20 years, and now I'm meeting the love of my life through it. What? Like, that seems
Because I think I get, like, using, like, when you were talking about, like, the two extremes of, like, no technology and technology, I think viewing it as a tool is okay, but sometimes I don't think it should be involved, like you just said. Like, that should not be the hammer on my belt kind of thing for what I'm doing. And
I like that, hammer on my belt.
Hammer on my belt.
That's funny. I like that.
And I do think it because I have some buddies that have used, and I've used Tinder before, and quickly, like, it turns into this game of, like, are they just, like, they have to be interesting in 3 messages, and I'm like, I can't do that. I can't be interesting in 3 messages. Like, that's a stupid game to play, man.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. And I don't know.
I was on Tinder for maybe 6 months or a year during like 2020, during like COVID, and I was like, I'm not seeing anybody anyways. Let's just try it out. And for that year, I was like, man, I'm looking at women differently. I kind of like noticed that, like, the way I was like looking at courtship, looking at like dating, I was like, making it quicker. I was like, oh, let's hurry this shit up. Like, let's,
interesting.
Like, I'm trying to get on a date, blah, blah, blah. Like, just like doing this like weird thing where it's like, I don't know. It just kind of like changed the way I looked at women, because I'm constantly looking at just pictures. I'm just looking at pictures and a little bio, and that is it. And that was just like, wow, this is not really, I'm not thinking about this person being a human being. I'm looking at this image and thinking it and wondering if I like it or not. And it's like, ugh.
Whoa. I mean, that even ties in with like porn, to be honest. It almost like puts them next to each other and makes them feel similar, because the difference that I feel like that, when early on, when you're younger, watching porn and all that, the separation is that's fake, obviously. Right. And hopefully, people are taught that and all that, and, you gotta, hopefully, figures in your life are telling you that, but that the separation is, okay, well, you go to school or you go out and about or whatever, and you see a real person and you're talking to a real person.
Right, yeah.
And the separation is real life versus, this fantasy or whatever. Mm-hmm. And those kind of dating apps, it boils down this complex human being right in front of you to, like you just said, these limited perspective photos of that they chose to. So there's bias behind. I mean, obviously there's always, you could even meet somebody in person and their outfit is biased, and you could analyze that. I'm being kind of ridiculous now, but I feel like there's like you said, there's this limited perspective on it. And when it asks you like your bio, Like, oh, tell me something interesting about you. Oh, come the fuck on. And I think there's a beauty to having that kind of moment in person when you have that awkward like question or awkwardness. And body language I think is so important too. That's like a lost language nowadays. And it reminds me of, I call it grade school love, which is maybe not the best way to call it because of...
That's a little...
Yeah, it sucks because pedos exist, but because I call it that because it's like...
Innocent.
Exactly.
Innocent
it's
love.
Before, all the weird temptations of whatever might be or whatever might be or the confusion of things. It just felt pure. It was kind of instinctual.
Yeah.
It didn't make fully sense, but it was like, I want to protect this person or I want to be with this person. I want to hang out with this person, whatever might be the extent of it.
Sure.
And it's almost like I feel like we're trying to strive for that. Like you said, you think about those kind of relationships that you want to have where you meet somebody at a cafe or whatever and it just sparks and you're just going back and forth and it doesn't matter about the interest because you guys are there to listen to each other and just learn about each other or whatever it might be.
And that's half the fun is the mystery.
Absolutely.
Because like, why the fuck do I need to spell out every single thing I am? I don't understand myself, right? Like I barely know myself. Like I've only been living on this fucking earth for 22 years. That's nothing. Like I've technically only woken up in the past like couple years, to like understanding that like, oh, this is like a perpetual cycle of, being born and growing up and finally realizing the world around you, and then you have to realize you have responsibilities, and then you have to take control of those responsibilities and kind of being an active person, an active member of society to contribute. And I barely fucking understand that. So for me to be like, I'm gonna give you my whole life story in a fucking bio and tell you what I'm into and tell you how I am, like, there's no mystery in that. And I like the whole mystery of like, if I am on a date with this girl and I'm like, oh, like I don't need to know everything about her that moment. I would like to ask her, right? The mystery of like, oh, let me, what are you into? What do you do in your free time? What are your dreams in life? Like, what are your aspirations? Where do you see yourself in 10, 20, 30 years? Blah, 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 blah. And those answers will change no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, if I give you all those answers about like who I am, what I like, what are my hobbies, what do I do in my free time, what are my dreams, what do I see myself doing in 10 years, that fucking, all those answers are going to change in a year. So it's like, why do we even need to label ourselves? It's like, this is an ever changing environment. And if you don't change, you're not really evolving as a person. You're not really like improving your thought process. If you stay in one lane this whole time, it's a limited existence. And the dating world's kind of just, it's a meshy world now because there's no courtship anymore. It's like, I find the funniest shit in the world that we have to go to a bar to meet somebody. That's really like the proper place to meet, somebody. It's like, oh, did you go to the bar? And you're like, what? I have to go to a place that serves alcohol, and like that's like the whole thing of our culture is like, I have to get a beer, I have to get like the social courage, or was it the liquid courage? I have to get some liquid courage in me to be able to talk to other women, to be able to like meet people and blah 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 blah. And it's like, that's really strange. That we have that like kind of thing, and I just don't get it. I just don't.
It's like another way of. It reminds me of like another way of how we use our phones to not know something. We just use it to get that knowledge, and then we'll forget it. It's just for this one time,
right?
And so it feels like that instead of building up that courage and getting burnt a few times and being like, okay, don't say that in public kind of thing, or like, okay, don't be awkward like that, or whatever it might be. Instead of, because that is such a common thing of like using alcohol to be better at socializing.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like it, like trying to work and building up that skill of being able to be comfortable with yourself in public and all that. And not have to have the courage without the liquid courage,
Yeah.
you know, kind of thing.
For sure.
And because I don't know, I have a harsh stance because my parents drink, and so I'm kind of, I really don't like alcohol kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll have it once in a while as, you know, just casually, but I don't know. I
What
feel
you
like
think's against it?
Wait, what?
Like, what's your stance against alcohol? It's just like as a drug.
Yeah, I view it as like kind of a stimulus that's okay to use in moderation, as everyone obviously agrees on.
Sure. Everyone agrees on moderation with everything.
But, you know, it's always agreed upon, but most of the time it's not usually the case, it feels like. But I guess when it's used as a crutch, in a way. In maybe running away from problems or not facing certain relationships or whatever it might be. By the way, my parents were not, I just now realized I came across loving parents, amazing parents, genuinely. They taught me, they're polar opposites.
Okay.
So that, like, my mom's like, you know, when they were in high school and all that, my mom was a lot more of like a street kind of kid, kind of a tough son of a gun kind of thing. And my dad was more of like a bookworm kind of thing. And so when, like, for example, when we're driving around and I'm like behind the wheel, they will tell me opposite directions. It's ridiculous to the point of like how opposite they are. But it almost helps me realize not the absurdity of both sides, but more of like how big of a spectrum, I guess, the answer is to whatever it might be.
Sure, yeah.
That, I mean, obviously the right answer is we need to take a right. That's where fucking McDonald's is.
Sure, yeah,
but
yeah.
in a bigger kind of sense, realizing that, oh, well, I don't need to view it always like this way. Or, oh, I could be totally wrong and it's totally this way, or whatever it might be.
Right. It's, it's either Socrates or Aristotle that he said that no human being knowingly does wrong. It's Socrates. It believed that no one willingly chooses to do wrong. And it's like, it just that kind of shit where like, different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? There's really like, no one is actively thinking that like, oh, this is, everybody's got different beliefs. Everybody's got different ways to do things. And that if someone does something different than you, it's like, if you take offense or you think that's an issue, that someone does something differently than you, then that's your own, that's your, like, for you to think that someone needs to do something exactly like you, come on, like, it's just having acceptance of, you know, everybody's a little bit different, and if you just gotta accept that. And everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's got their little quirks. Everybody's got their little different answers, and like, I like that. I do like that.
Well, like, I think a big thing that's kind of helped me with, just like, for example, I think, well, I don't know if it's actually getting more angry. People have argued that the world's getting crazier or like more mad or whatever. Okay. And then some argue that maybe it's just the information is being sent to us easier. Like, it's always been a certain amount, but we're getting it through, you know, news or internet or whatever it might be.
Right.
More easily. But I feel like and to go along with that, to kind of keep a sane mind, is to remember, like, we were all kids at one point, and this is beyond crazy, like, this existence. Like, everything's, like, I don't even know where to start. Like, everything's made up. Somebody designed this place, this building. And then somebody built it. A bunch of people built it.
For sure.
And it's like everybody's taking in all this stimulus and they got to respond a certain way. But if they respond another way, you know, they're yelled at. But the people who are yelling at them, you know, let's say teachers, for example, in one way, maybe they have a limited perspective on that, and so they don't know fully the full story there, and so this is super general, talking about trying to be very specific, but like to just remember how complicated the world is and how everybody's trying to figure out this crazy, awesome thing called life as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it helps me because it's like I see, like for example, I'll have people like on the road, mm-hmm. Get mad at me or whatever. Yeah. Or I'm like get mad at them, and then I'm like,
for sure.
All they know is it looks like I cut them off, but mm-hmm. in reality, it was because I was about to go off the road, kind of thing, and then I didn't see them there, or maybe I did, and they seemed to stay behind, whatever it might be, mm-hmm. and to think of like how, I guess, important all the context is. It reminds me of how everybody's trying to figure out too.
And this might change gears a little, but I'll try to rope it in. And nobody has original thought, because the language that I think in, I didn't create that language. I didn't create any of the words that is connected to the language that I use in my own brain. And most thoughts are associations, right? You take one idea, you connect it to another idea, and you have this thing. You're like, oh my God, I have an idea. This is my own. Oh my gosh, I created this idea. And you're like, no, you didn't. You literally are taking all these cultural and like language information, and then you're compiling it, and you're making what you say is your own idea, but none of this shit is your own. It's really built upon all of the ancestors that we've had. Like, it is amazing to me that we can't recognize how amazing electricity is. How it's almost like it's this utility that's just around now. Mm-hmm. Like I extremely benefit from electricity. 24/7 I benefit from it. Mm. We are literally benefiting from it right at this moment because we have a mic, and we have a computer, and we have cell phones, and we have the ability to turn lights on when we need to, and all of that is taken for granted. We are the first human beings to be able to capitalize on such ideas. And the fact that we have running water, we have the ability to cook food immediately, instantaneously, we have the ability to cook food. We have the ability to hold food. We don't have to worry about famine. We don't have to worry about oh my God, it's raining. We're going to have to go pluck those fruits outside. We don't have any of that shit. Like, did Kroger run out of their logistics? Like, what's happening? Yeah. Like, it's like... We really have such an easy life. We have no worries. But since we have no worries about famine, or where do I have to take a shit, or, or where am I going to get my food from, now we're starting to think about cultural issues. Mm-hmm. Like, those Republicans, those Democrats, the presidential election's happening soon. Oh my God. And now you're worrying about shit that doesn't even affect your day to day. Like, I can't believe how much the presidential election during 2020 affected my well-being. And I started having opinions on the fucking presidential election. And who's going to get elected? Oh my gosh, no, Biden's going to be elected? Oh, and I remember just like thinking all those like wild ideas. And you're like, and me sitting in front of you now, I have no idea if Biden getting elected affected my day-to-day. And it most likely didn't. We're still American. We still pump gas. I mean, maybe gas is a little more expensive, and now my taxes are a little bit higher because we're pumping money into Ukraine. But besides that, my day-to-day isn't affected at all. And it's very interesting how, since we have no problems in our day-to-day, as human beings, we start to think, okay, what are the real problems? And now we're just getting caught into this, like, vortex of thought. This just like never-ending whirlpool of just being like, just trapped in this, like, I have to worry about something. What do I have to worry about? Like, is the fires in Quebec not going to make me be able to breathe in a couple months? Like, the air quality's horrible. Our children will have the ability to breathe, or we're going to have an ice age soon. Just like all this garbage that we will never be able to change, And it just fascinates me how the human mind, like, we live such an amazing life. We live such an amazing life. If we want to go to fucking California tomorrow, me and you can go on the computer, buy some tickets. Oh, they're a couple $100. Sick. Oh, we need a hotel. Oh, there's a hotel. Oh, we got a rental car too. Actually, we don't even need a rental car. We got fucking Uber. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we can do all this shit instantaneously. A couple 100 years ago, you'd have to be like, we're going to California. I guess we're gonna have to fucking burn our home down and get into a buggy. Yeah. We're gonna have a horse-drawn carriage. Oh, they actually have railroads now. Mm. Oh, okay, great. It's gonna take us 3 weeks to get there. It's like our life is dramatically so much better because of all these technological like advances. Mm-hmm. But it seems like as a human race, we're just getting like more and more like anxiety ridden, which doesn't make any sense because our world is getting better and better. I mean, like, as a first world country, we got fucking all the luxuries.
I think that might be probably the difference then, that like we're in that position but other individuals might not. And so I think that's where a lot of, I guess, that kind of worry comes from. Okay. Because when individuals are probably put in positions of power or whatever it might be, or even laws and all that, affects groups that I'm not really a part of and all that. So okay. I really have no say. But
that's totally fair.
But I do agree that there is a you were talking about at the end, that like an anxiety over the world, like, because I agree that there is this weird feeling that like if I don't have something immediate to worry about, I will find something to worry about.
Sure.
And I realized that when I was probably back in high school. I remember it was after some like big test or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was so stressed out about it. And I waited the last second to worry about it. And then after the test was done, I was fine. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's usually how it goes. And I'm like, but why did I make that such a big deal? And then immediately I was like, oh, man, I got this problem with my friend group or whatever that I had to worry about. And I was like, what the hell? That was already happening before. Why am I now? Like it's like I almost wait for something to be upset about or to freak out about or to focus my attention on. And in a way, I feel like it ties in with probably trying to feel like you're doing something, like you're actively working on something.
Or in control.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a way better way to put it. I like that. Mm-hmm. In control and being like, okay, well, I have this test, I need to worry about that. Or like, okay, I got this, I got to worry about that. But if you can like lower your anxiety on those things and then recognize what are the things that I choose to be, because it feels like I'm in control, but those are like it comes at me and I'm like, oh, I'm going to latch onto that, or oh shit, I'm going to grab onto that thing. Mm-hmm. And it feels like you're in control, but when you try to work at it, and I've not at all perfected it, my lord, I'm dog shit at it, but recognizing that and then finding the things that you do care about and the things that you want to put your time into and focus on. Like, for example, my relationship with my grandma, I have not talked with her in a very, very long time. And I've been putting it off in so long. That is a thing that I need to do. Like, I just now recognize that. But it's...
Me too, actually.
It's weird. If you don't want to go into details,
No, go right ahead.
I was just going to share at least was the reasons behind is because she's very religious. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. It's way? Like the...
religious and
that is a good point. That's a good
because there's religious people who would be like, Riley, you just need God. And you're like, that's a blanket statement. But then there's people who like really are kind of like connected with the whole idea of spirituality. Mm-hmm. So like,
I'd say that like I need God, and I can't remember the exact type of. I know that there's like different segments of different religions, you know, and so I can't remember the exact type of church and all that, but I believe it's under. Well, I shouldn't actually even guess, but she said that we're currently living already in hell. She argues that we're already in hell, and that, or if we're not, it was purgatory. That we're in purgatory right now, and that this is like the, kind of hellish kind of spot where we're kind of still waiting for our time to go to heaven.
Sure. And
I thought that was interesting, that we're already, like, she argued that we've already been on Earth, and or in a way been on Earth and kind of existed, but right now this kind of world that we're in is leading to the end times and stuff, and that if we don't get right with God, we will go to hell and all that. And it kind of, worried my mom, obviously, kind of thing, and so she kind of wanted us to step away from that. But I'm 22 now. I should be able to, for one, obviously make my own decisions.
Okay.
And two, be able to be there. And I think she just didn't want us to be influenced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm at an age that I can at least recognize if there's influence, that's on me. You know what I mean? Sure. I'm the one who's stepping into that kind of world, and I'm going to try to stay strong and obviously have an open mind and all that. But I think it's like a conversation that I'm worried to have, but it's like there's really no worry. There shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Godspeed for her being able to at least think about it. Because I've been like kind of like taste testing like people's opinions about the afterlife and what we are in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I find it very interesting that if you ask somebody, what are we experiencing right now? What is this little like existence that we're in? And nobody can really explain it. Which is, we live it.
Mm-hmm.
We fucking live this day to day. I wake up, I'm up for 16 hours, and I go to bed for 8 hours. And tomorrow I'll do it the same thing, and the next day I'll do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what is this little thing that we're running? Like, what? Like, we're in this body bag. And, like, as I'm getting older, I'm able to separate, like, this physical body from my brain.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And, like, when people are like, when people are really attached to their physical essence, right? It's really kind of shocking to me about like, I'm this person. I'm short, so I'm going to let that affect my personality. I'm tall, so I let that affect my personality. I have blonde hair, so I talk like a blonde, or just things like that. And I just find that like people really don't take the moment and be like, what am I?
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing right now? What experiment am I running? I'm going through this day-to-day thing of life, like, and it's such a heavy topic that the best philosophers can barely explain what life is.
Mm-hmm.
They can barely explain it. They can explain like human phenomenon and like how we interact and what's our personalities like and the human psychology. They can describe all that shit, but they can barely describe what this is.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? And that makes me go to the idea of like, what is the afterlife?
Mm-hmm.
If we barely know about this, we barely know about the afterlife too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you find so many like sad ways of like perspectives of like, yeah, like after this it's lights out. Like that's the atheist idea. Is that it's lights out and that's it. All right, and then you're like, okay, and then you go to the Buddhist and like Hinduism ideas, and you're like, okay, so this is a cycle. So I'll die and then I'll be reborn, and I'll die and I'll reborn, and all of this rebirth will be this karma like cycle of like how I live and blah 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 blah. And then I go to the Christianities and Christians, and then it's like, if you live a good life, you'll go to heaven. If you live a bad life, you go to hell. And it's like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
You know, like, well, and I just, taking, like, I really like taste testing what other people believe in, because it kind of goes into the mental psychology of how they perceive life too. Because if they perceive life like, oh, it's lights out, you're like, that's an interesting thing, because that tells me a little bit about your human psychology. If you are into the atheist things, then you're probably, other parts of your life are probably a little bit like that too. They're probably a little like nihilism, like everything's horrible, or, like.
I think there's also like the idea of like just accepting the chaos in a way. Like should not argue what my brother believes, but at least I feel like when talking with him, he kind of, I don't know how he feels on higher up being, but he just accepts that this world is chaotic and that random stuff can happen, and to just, in a weird way, that's the most consistent thing in life that you can hold on to and be like, there's a consistency in the random, which is so.
That's beautiful.
And I thought that's a very cool way to view the world.
Damn, I like that.
And I like that it is all, personally interpreted. And I think, because you were saying that, like, a lot of things can be explained, but that one is all over the place from so many things. And I like that because I like that free control of it being, because I in my head, I feel like, obviously we both grew up in the same kind of religion upbringing, but in my head I feel like they're all right in some kind of way, at least personally for myself, and
they all come from humans.
Yeah.
and as humans we have the ego to think that, as a human being we're right. So here I'm gonna ask you a hard question. Do you believe in God?
I think that there is something beyond us. It could be by the title of God or universe or whatever it might be. It's the same thing. I feel like when people say, I'm asking for the universe for some hot Takis or some shit. I don't know, but something good in their life, or something, whatever it might be. As the same as somebody. I was at a Reds game, and this guy right next to me, decked out in Reds gear, he started praying for the Reds to get a thing, and I knew that that's like a thing. Everybody kind of, or not everybody, but that I've seen that a lot where, in certain kind of environments, people throw out a prayer to be like, Lord, please help my team, or
right.
Lord, can I, get this shit done, or whatever it might be, and back to the question, I think that there is something beyond us that is, I think I'll leave it at that. I don't know how else to go on without suggesting other things that I don't believe. So
okay.
I'd say that I think there's something beyond us, and also the other one, after death. I think that after we die, it's exactly what we think it is.
And we got to be ready.
Visit orugastore.com today and enter the discount code OP15 for 15% off your order on all Oruga merch. Free shipping for orders over $50 is available as well. Thank you.
So it's like, if you think, like you think deep down that like you're a good person, and you think that you're going to go to a heaven of some sort, whatever, some kind of place that's good,
sure,
then that's where you go.
Yeah.
If you feel like deep down that you are a bad person, I don't know about that one. That one's kind of, I don't know if people would just go to hell or something like that. But I just think wherever you truly do believe that, even past the, people, there's shitty people out there that are like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm a good guy. Yeah, right. I don't give a crap. Mm-hmm. That's a facade. That's a layer over top saying that kind of stuff. And so I'm talking about the deep down where, you know, they're instinctual, like that. I feel like the most honest part of yourself.
Yeah.
And
the part
I think
of yourself that can't bullshit.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You can't bullshit with that part of yourself. You can kind of trick yourself here and there of like, oh, I'm a good person, you're really a piece of shit. Or like, oh, I'm a bad person, but you're really a good person. Mm-hmm. And like, there's that surface level of your brain where you can kind of trick yourself here and there of like, oh, this is a good outfit. Oh, I'm not fat. Or like, oh, these are good looking shoes. And you're like, none of those things are true. But the deep down, the real essence of you, you know, that feeling of right before you go to bed and you're thinking about all those like, oh, those weird moments. You're like, oh, I need to change that. Oh, I didn't talk to that person right. Ooh, I need to fix these things about me. Mm-hmm. That part of yourself you'll never be able to bullshit. And I do like that theory of like manifesting what, like when you die and that deep down feeling you have about what is the afterlife, and then you manifest it. Maybe even manifest it as you're dying, and that's your heaven. I'd be okay with that too. Being like, I mean, you know what I like the most is, what were you before you were Riley Stevens?
Nothing. And I would assume that I was nothing, and I will return to nothing. But I became something. Mm-hmm. You know, I was born, and now I'm here. And now I have this life. So like, if I was nothing, and I became something, and then I returned to nothing, my thought is I've probably become something again. But that's my thought. I don't that's not, you know, like I don't want to, that's not projection to, you know, you should believe what I believe. No. I think it should be interpreted as, you know, we're not starting a cult or anything. We're just talking about how we feel on things, and that's good.
Well, actually, me and you were different. I'm actually starting a cult.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point.
Just kidding. No, those cults are a bummer.
Yeah.
They're a real bummer.
Yeah, they end pretty badly.
Yeah, it's always like this dude from fucking Arkansas or Kansas being like, I'm the new Jesus. And people are like, he is. He is the new Jesus. He just speaks to me compassionately. Yeah. And you're like, dude, that's what tricks you? Just having a little bit of a conversation. He's like...
Well, I think a lot of times it just comes out of, like, if not vulnerable people, but vulnerable situations where it's almost like sometimes people, you know, there's like cases where people just don't have a home, and they're like, oh yeah, come on in. And so they're like, oh my gosh, like you know, I was struggling with drug abuse and all that, and I needed a home, and you totally took me in. That's beyond nice. And then just slowly through, you know, their kind of tactics, they just reel people in.
Breaking you down and making you dependent on them. That's like
an abusive relationship, but like in a cult, like, you know, you can see it in like, you know, a boyfriend girlfriend kind of situation, but it's
amen
bizarre.
to that. Man, I see it a lot now with like, you don't really like I feel like maybe 30 to 40-year-old people kind of have their life a little bit more together, but like this age, this like, you know, 20s to 25s, you really see like the gross relationships pop up here and there, and you see the people who are dependent on each other, and they're like, you know, like the one, or they only hang out with each other, and like that's it, and then they have no social life outside of that relationship, and then you're like, hey, can I talk to you too? Like, will your spouse get mad at me if I start talking to you too? Yeah. Like, hey, like, you know, why don't you come out of that cave, and why don't you come talk to like the people outside the cave, you know? And people are really susceptible. I feel like just like if, like you said, you know, like a broken person or a person who's like really like hasn't had a good start to life. And then they get that little ounce of compassion from a fucking crazy person, and they're like, this person's so nice. And then after a while, they're like, whoa, that, you know, Tom's a really great person. Yeah, he hits me every now and then, but like he also feeds me. We also have a great time, and blah 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 blah. And like he's really nice. You just haven't seen the nice part of. You just haven't seen him nice to me.
Yeah.
Like all that shit. And you're like, dude. And there's nothing. I don't know. That's a real sticky situation.
Yeah, there's a point where it's like you could even say. I mean, I've seen situations where friends of, let's say the male of the relationship of a guy and girl relationship is being abusive.
The guy's being abusive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's where like the friends of the girl will tell her nonstop, like, leave him and all that.
For sure.
But it's, I just cannot imagine. I mean, it's like, it's a weird situation because it's like you start to blame yourself at times. I mean, it's all, case by case, but I've seen it where individuals blame themselves for when the other person's angry. And so they're like, okay, well, it's my fault that he hit me. Or like, oh, I was being stupid. And it's like, okay, no. And then you could say that, but they still, they still have this perception on the relationship. And it's, yeah, I cannot imagine, because a lot of it,
because each relationship's kind of different. Each person's different. I mean, different strokes for different folks, man. Like, everybody's just a little bit different. And, like, each relationship I have is a million times different than the next. So it's like, once you get that perfect relationship where you understand that's like, okay, I'm gonna be like 100% truthful. I'm not gonna fuck with you. Like, I'm not gonna like play mind games. This is who I am. I don't even know how to explain that. I'm just not bullshitting. Like I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be straightforward, and then that's that. And then once you have a relationship that's like non-hectic, no drama, no bullshit. The day to day is good. That is just it's really freeing to just have that, like, oh, this is what it's like. Oh God, thank God not every relationship's crazy, because like if you grow up with like if you grow up with parents who never were able to deal with each other, if you grew up with divorced parents, or you grew up with just a bad dynamic, and you see and a lot of your family members having bad dynamics with their spouses as well, you kind of like I've seen a lot of people have this like real negative outlook to how marriage is, and how they're like, I'll never get married because it's total bullshit and this and that.
Wasting my time.
I'm gonna be a bachelor all my life, or I'm just gonna, when my wife gets mad, I go to the garage and I hide, or like happy wife, happy life.
Oh.
Dude. Like, dude, get your fucking shit together. If you're like happy wife, happy life, like you both should be happy.
Exactly.
You both should be like it's not a one-way street, because once you give the one-way street, that's just not gonna turn out well. Something's gonna happen. Something's like I hate that kind of cliche. Yeah, like and that's like, I find that with a lot of older people too. They really have those mentalities of happy wife, happy life. And I'm not saying that the wife shouldn't be happy.
Yeah,
I'm saying that both parties should be happy.
Absolutely.
And that's what creates like, a true bond, a true ability to like coexist together, live on this planet happily, and just fucking, no drama or whatever, like whatever that means for your life. And that's just
well, it's like, I think a big part of it is almost being ready to be in a relationship, or like take on that responsibility. And that's a slippery slope, because when I've said that in the past to people that I know, I've been told, well, when are you actually ready? And I'm like, that's not what I mean. Obviously, you're not fully, you don't know yourself entirely. At one point, we were just talking about that we won't know ourselves really entirely. And, but there's a point where when you have that kind of confidence, or that kind of, you've been on your own and you can take that, is when you get in a relationship and you're able to go away from each other for a few. You know what I mean? It's not like you were just saying, those relationships where people are like, they have to eat the same meal, or they have to eat together at the same time, or don't watch that TV show without me. And obviously can be cute things that people do together and all that,
For sure.
I do the same with my significant other, but there is a point where there's dependency, and it doesn't help anyone. Obviously the person that the person's latching onto, but especially the person who's trying to reach out.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the relationship pyramid?
Mm-hmm.
So I had this like psychology class. I had to take a psychology class in college, and I was like, I know. Woo. And it was actually like, I actually really had a fucking phenomenal teacher. I mean, he really knew his shit, and he was passionate about like what we were talking about. And the way he laid out the relationship pyramid was really brilliant. Like, I mean, it was just like a total, just a triangle. And then there's like steps to the peak of the relationship, and then there's steps down to the ending of the relationship. And you know, if you want a perfect relationship, you had to stick onto the top 3 or 4 things from, like, it was like coming together and bonding, and then differentiating and coming apart was like the sweet spot of a relationship.
Oh, that's genius. So it is like so it's not like boom, boom. It's not like layers that just go up. It's layers that almost like it goes up and down. So the middle section those are, oh my gosh, I like that. It's
not a ladder. It's not, you're not climbing up a ladder. You're climbing up this mountain, but then you also got to climb down it just a little, because
oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like I wish I could relay how he relayed it, because he was brilliant about it. But of just like, you do stuff together. You come together, you do shit together, but then you need to separate yourselves as well. You need to be different people. You need to like have your own friends. You need to have your own activities, because that's how you come apart. But then once you come back together, you have those different experiences, and you can still keep that vigor alive. Because if you experience the same life, if you experience all same food, you experience everything together, you'll have nothing to talk about. You'll have nothing to do. You'll have you know what I mean? Like, life will become a little bit stale. But once you come apart and you do other activities, and you really like have a balance of life and a balance of
growing as yourself, by yourself kind of thing.
Exactly.
Huh. Damn, I like that.
It's really brilliant.
That is pretty good.
And it's really, I'm in the middle of, moving apartments, and I had the relationship pyramid all drawn out, and it was like on one of my cork boards, and I packed it away. Oh shit! Actually, I didn't. No, actually, I didn't. I actually have it. I know exactly where it is. Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, here it is. And yeah, the relationship pyramid. And so there's initiating, experimenting, and intensifying. Those are the first 3 steps to the relationship, and that's the coming together. And then you integrate and bonding, which are the next 2 steps. And then what the steps that go down the pyramid are differentiating and then circumscribing, are the separating or coming apart. And the, integrating, bonding, differentiating, and circumscribing are the relationship, like, sweet spot almost. Like the rational maintenance. And it's really brilliant. And then, like, once you start going down the pyramid of, like, starting to separate and almost, like, ending the relationship, they're stagnating, avoiding, and then you eventually terminate. And I mean, like, each one of these words I just said, you can go on, like, you could write books about just, like, each subject and, like, how a relationship begins and how it, like, separates. And I would assume this isn't just, like, romantic relationships. You could probably also like do this for like just like ordinary like friendships and like, you know, business shit as well. And it's really like just understanding like, you know, like how we operate kind of puts it at ease. I remember looking at this when I first started a relationship, and I was like, okay, these are the steps. And just understanding how all this kind of works kind of like alleviated a lot of the like the anxiety of like, you know, like a new relationship. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? And blah. And then like after a few months, it starts to calm down. You start to understand who the person is. You know, like you start to get into a rhythm of like how to deal with that person and like how this relationship is, how the relationship is kind of brewing. And yeah, I mean, like,
it's a good structure to work off of. I really like that.
And obviously, you can make your own, like, little pyramids. You can make your own, like, way of how to deal with relationships. But this one was so brilliant of how, like...
I'm going to take a picture of it.
It's really cool.
And what does circumscribing? I don't know what that means.
Neither do I. But I just remember that was, like, could you look it up to get a definition?
What were you saying? Sorry.
You know, I think just like being able to have a healthy termination of a relationship too is like probably a really good skill. Because like, I don't know, man. I just feel like the whole circumscribing, restrict within limits. Their movements were strictly monitored and circumscribed. Draw around, what is that? Draw a figure around another, touching.
That's
how you use it in geometry.
And I think, is this saying the no?
Losing the us. That's what that is. So, like, I guess circumscribing in this context was losing the us.
Okay.
So, like,
and that goes along with the brain together. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, the sweet spot actually was wrong when I first said it. So, the sweet spot of relationships is bonding and differentiating. But then the relationship maintenance is integrating, bonding. That's the positive end. And then the negative end is differentiating and then circumscribing, which, you know, like separating yourself, making you guys a little bit different, and then circumscribing meaning like losing the us. And, you know, those four ideas are the relationship maintenance, which is really cool. I mean, like when he was teaching us this, I was like literally in like the first couple weeks of a relationship, and I was like, whoa. This is crazy how, like, there's a whole fucking roadmap. There's a roadmap to really anything. Like, if you, like, there's really no new experiences as human beings. I mean, like, for God's sakes, philosophers have been around for thousands of years writing. Everybody is going through the same shit. You know, for you to think that you're going through something special, that's fucking stupendously
Well, I think
idiot.
maybe special in a different kind of way. I mean, unique, maybe you could view it like that, but I don't know, because it's like, obviously, people in our lives have fallen in love before.
Sure, of course.
But when you fall in love, man, that is going to be beyond unique. That is going to be something incredibly special to you. And it's going to be a feeling that you're like, oh, hell, none of my friends know about this. No one I know knows about this. Screw all that.
Yeah.
And so I think, I don't know the exact words, but I guess it would be that it's like a different kind of special feeling. But I do know what you mean. I agree with that it's like...
You don't have to agree with me.
But I agree. I do agree with you, though. I know what you mean. Yeah. I agree with you in the sense that we all have a communal existence in many ways that happens all the time. But yeah, I think there's a level of specialness with some of it.
It is amazing. Like the feeling of falling in love, there's nothing like it. There's really nothing like it. I mean, like, of course, like, you know, I love my family, I love my grandparents, I love my siblings, I love my parents. but you're like, whoa, I really love that person. That's just like, it's such an intense feeling, and you're like, where did this come from? You're like, a couple months ago I didn't even fucking know this person, and now I'm like going on dates, and now I'm spending a lot of time with them, and like, it's really fascinating, like the mindset that you go through too, of just like, it is really amazing. Like I do love it.
Yeah. There's like the butterflies in the stomach, almost that nervousness kind of thing, and the vulnerability with each other.
Yeah.
And I think those kind of moments are not one of the few times, but one of the times where people can see how vulnerable, naked somebody else is. That like they're also trying to figure out this crazy thing called life, and that you both are face to face and deciding, you know what, let's give it a shot. You know, we like that is beyond profound to be able, like, for two people to be willing to know that they have a limited time on this world, and to know that they decide to be with each other, to spend their time, their energy, their mental strength, they're even, you know, causing probably wrinkles, you know, you're stressing about somebody else, you know, in your life.
Sure.
And to be willing to accept that with this other stranger in a way is fucking awesome, man.
It is really awesome. And also like the things that come with it, like as a man, you're like, you know, you're putting your safety above that person. You're putting your safety, you know, their safety is way above yours. You know, you have, when you go to places, you're like, I don't give a shit about me, but I'm giving a shit about this person, and I need to make sure that this person is safe. That, you know, and that there's just so many exciting things about that. And you're like, oh, you get to meet their parents. Oh shit! Oh shit! You know, that's crazy. And then you just get all these little feelings of like, oh, you know, like, I get a second opinion. Gosh damn, I love the second opinion. The second opinion is always awesome, and it's like, oh, you know, does this outfit look good? Oh, like, what do you want to eat tonight? Oh, like, but just that kind of shit. And it's like, to have the second opinion is so awesome. It's really special. It's a really special thing.
I mean, I've done it where, like, I'm about to send a text and I'm like, is this, like, does this make sense? And she, like, you know, my girlfriend reads it and she's like, dude, that is so not you. Why'd you, like, overthink the hell out of this? Just say yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a paragraph there. I'm like, you're right. I should just say yeah.
Just say yeah.
And it kind of unclutters your mind sometimes, kind of thing, when you have an individual like that.
Going back to, you're talking about Tom Segura. Big fan of Tom Segura. And he has this bit on one of his specials about marriage. And he's like, when you're first dating, you're like pretending to be somebody. You're like, you know, I'm this person. I'm this person, and you're that person. And okay. And then once you're dating, or once you get married, you're like, can we cut the shit? Can we just be normal around each other? Can we just be who we are around each other, and blah 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 blah? And I've never gotten married, but I have, you know, the dynamic of dating, and you're like trying to be all straight-laced and back straight, and you're like, I'm commendable. I'm you know, I'm a great mate. Please pick me for your life.
Look at my feathers.
Yeah,
you know,
look at all my plumage. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Well, I try to, like, actively not, like, whenever, you know, I was going into the dating world, I actively tried not to be something I wasn't, kind of thing. Because I thought it would just be almost like dishonest at one point to be like, I actually don't flirt that often, you know, that kind of stuff. Because, you know, that's the typical thing a guy on the first date is like, you know, flirting all the time, being all suave and all that. And it's like, I'm just going to be me, kind of thing. And I just think it can be dangerous at times. But at the same time, it makes sense because it's like you're trying, you know, an individual's trying their best at trying to, like you said, get their mate, kind of thing. And,
right.
And
yeah, that's why when you go to a restaurant, you can always tell who's on the first date. Always, man. oh gosh, I mean, even when I was on first dates, I tried not to act like I was on a first date, but it's so damn hard of just being like, you're with somebody you don't know, and you're also like trying to figure them out, like you know, give me a red flag so I can end this quickly.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like what, you know, like all right.
I think you should just lean into, you know, instincts though. You know, if you're just going into the, you know, if you're at like a dinner kind of scenery, you kind of just, you know, I remember I went on a date back from a girl on Tinder.
Okay.
And I remember quickly I was like opening the doors and all that, and I was like being like super, you know, just like attentive and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, like I do that, you know, that's okay. I'm not like overstepping or whatever. And then I remember we left the place, and there was this homeless guy that came up and he said, do you have any money? And she looked over at me, and I was like, that was a moment where I was like, oh, I gotta look like I got a bunch of money. It was like I noticed like how much like the weird times that I chose to be a different person, and it was like there. And so I was like, oh yeah, of course. And so I opened my wallet, and I see a $20 bill, and I was like, oh man, I kind of want that. You know, I kind of don't want to, you know, obviously, but, and I handed it over, and it was folded in a T-shirt. I folded it into a T-shirt dollar. I do that sometimes, and I handed it over, and he like unfolded it, and he was like, 20? Do you have any more? And I was like, no. And I showed him my wallet, and he was like, oh, okay. And he just walked away, and I was like, see, when you don't be yourself or stay true to like what you believe in, obviously you can be open to new things and all that, and you learn. But I already knew that was kind of how it was going to go in a sense, and I but not saying you shouldn't give money to homeless people, but sure. I think there's a time and place kind of thing, and maybe different avenues to get that money to them. But
that's a weird feeling for me as well, because like I live in Cincinnati, close to downtown, and there's a palpable like homelessness issue, and I've kind of been fighting this for about, I guess, like 4 or 5 years since I've been living here, and it's like I hate that feeling of being taken advantage of. You know what I mean? It's that feeling of like, do you have any more? And you're like, bro, I'm working. I'm working for my dollar. I'm not trying to be an asshole.
But I know what you mean. It's like it's still your property in a way, and so it
barely have that $20 bill. I barely have that $20 bill, and now you have that $20 bill, and it's like, dude, I barely had that money beforehand. I'm starving and broke. Just like, come on, like, and it's. But there are certain people, there are certain homeless guys that I do give cash to exclusively because they're so damn nice. Yeah, there's this one guy. His name's Jerome or Gerard or something like that, and he comes up to me. He's like, I'm deeply ashamed, and I lost my job. Blah 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 blah. And could you give me just a few extra dollars so I can go to that place over there and get some water? And he gives me the same sales pitch every time. He doesn't even know who I am. I don't think he recognizes me. But I've given him cash every time I've seen him, because he's always, and every time I give him cash, he's like, oh, thank you so much. No one else does this for me. And I'm like, you know what? You could be lying to me right now. I don't care, because you come up to me humbly and you ask money humbly, and it's just a nice exchange. But I have had those times where it would just be kind of an asshole that comes up and you're like, you got cash? Yeah. And I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to right now? Are you talking to me? Yeah. Like, do I have cash? Do you got cash? Like, but I've had times where like they're being an asshole, but I think they might need it. You know what I mean? And so I'll give it the dollar or whatever I have on me, and I'll give it to them, and then I just get that feeling of like being taken advantage of. Yeah. And, like, I don't know what's right or wrong at those instances.
I mean, these people are trying to survive, and so they kind of go whatever they need to do to survive. And so part of me doesn't blame them for being so blunt, but also, like, what the hell, man?
What the hell, man? Like, yeah, it's like, exactly. And there's this certain point where it's like, I can't give money to every single homeless person, but every homeless person asks. So it's like, what can I do? Like, all right, if I go start volunteering at the homeless shelter, will that will that make a difference? Will they'll stop asking for money? And the answer is no. So it's like, what is the real like solution there?
Well, I kind of changed how I approach those situations. I usually have like either snacks with me or like water bottles or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I come across an individual, asking for money or something like that, I just give them a water bottle or a snack or whatever it might be. Or if I had my own water, I just give it to them or whatever, unopened or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that quickly, because it's something that they probably appreciate and whatnot, an individual appreciates. But when somebody says, no, do you have money, is when I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is clearly not going to happen then, kind of thing. I'm trying to give you free water, I'm the light's green, I gotta go, man. People are honking, trying to be nice.
There's this one guy that sits on a particular corner. He's like, hey, yo, man, you got a cigarette? Hey, that's his question ever. He doesn't ask for money. He doesn't ask for water. He's like, hey, yo, you got a cigarette? And I was thinking about buying a pack of cigarettes and giving them one at a time. Every time I see him. But I haven't done it yet because I only saw him like 3 or 4 times, and then that was it. I haven't seen him since. And I was like, man, I guess I'm not going to buy that pack of cigarettes. But like, yeah, the money thing is like, it's a weird thing, but when they ask for like water, food, a cigarette, that doesn't bother me. When a guy's like, can I have a cigarette? I'm like, you can fucking have 4 because you're homeless and you need it. You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be like, don't smoke, it's bad for you? Like, come on,
I'll say I'm that bitch. I'll be honest. I'm like that. Like, dude, you got to like not do that, man. Because my parents smoked and I was like, I'm like so against that and all that. And then, then I'm putting that burden onto other people because they're like, dude, I'm homeless, motherfucker. Just let me get a cigarette. God damn, you don't need
It's not as bad as heroin, and I'm doing that too.
You can't be putting that moral shit on me right now. Well, it reminds me when I went to Chicago for filming like an episode of Chicago Fire. Mm-hmm. I remember I was on the L, like the subway line, and this woman came up to me, and she said, don't laugh, I'm on my period right now. And I was like, I didn't find it funny anyway in the first place. And she said, and I don't have enough money to buy pads. And she's like, and I'm bleeding through my underwear and my pants right now. I think even on the seat right now. And she was like getting closer. And she said, yeah, I'm bleeding right now. Could, please just give me some money. And I pulled out my wallet, and the whole time while I was there, I was very much buying food for people. I would say no, and then I would go to like a corner store and get them like a Subway sandwich or something like that, if I felt inclined or whatever. But with this case, I think maybe I was just in a bad mood, or maybe I probably was just uncomfortable with the situation too.
Sure.
And so I was just like, yeah, here's some money. And I gave her like $5. And she then sat down and then came back and said, pads are actually more expensive. And I was like, okay. And I pulled out my phone and I said, I looked up the price for them. And she was like, well, I saw that you had a $10 bill in there. Another one right next to the 5 that you gave me. Could you give me the 10 as well? And then that's when I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And she was like, what the hell, man? And I was like, I gave you $5, man. And I'm like feeling bad, but then I'm like, I shouldn't feel bad. And then
Right.
And it's this weird guilt trip type thing. Not all the cases, obviously. That's not all the trying cases. To do that. But when I brought this story up to other people, I found out that some girls use that to make guys uncomfortable. Like even at work, for example, like, I need to go home because I'm, bleeding a bunch. And they're like, okay, man, I don't want to hear about that.
Right.
And some guys just get overly uncomfortable about it. I wasn't really uncomfortable until she started like getting closer and trying to like, I think she noticed that I wasn't uncomfortable and was trying to make me more uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah.
This is, me just guessing, but yeah, it was a very weird experience. Another time on the L, I remember it was the first time I got there. These two guys came in, and they were like whispering, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, is anybody else? Like, it's just so like, it's so suspicious. I thought it was just so weird because they're like looking around, like darting around the room. And they're whispering, and they said they were like, all right, everybody, and I was like, oh no, I just got here, man. I don't want to get like some
stick up.
Yeah, some stick up. I'm thinking like old, this is like the Wild West out here, but
empty the purses.
Yeah, exactly.
Empty the purse. Any jewelry on that neck?
Yeah. And they got like cowboy hats or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. But they said, we are two brothers and one voice. 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 3, and they started singing. And I was like, what the fuck? Did not expect that. And they started singing, beautiful voices. I was like stunned by it. And they were going on with it, and I was like looking around, and like maybe two others packed kind of cart. Two other people were like looking over, one smiling or whatever, and everybody else like heads down, like they like actively turned their bodies away and like just weren't looking. Yeah. And I just thought that was interesting, and I remember then they came over around to collect tips from it, and I get it that they're kind of hustling, but Chicago fucked me up, man.
Really?
In a weird way. Like, I became angry at like cities and how almost numb people are to the homelessness.
Yeah.
Because I got mad at how many people were like, I mean, there was like one time there was some guy saying that it's like, why, like he was shirtless and he was like crying and he was like punching himself in the face, and people were just on their phones looking away because they didn't want to, engage is like a thing that I was told. Like, another thing, while I'm there, I keep on being told the same things, was like, don't engage.
Don't give eye contact.
Don't give eye contact, exactly. If you give money to one person, you'll have to give it to all of them.
Yeah.
You'll join them if you give them money or whatever.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Mind your own business.
You'll join them if you give them money.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it's such like it was so weird. It's like all these people told me in different situations, someone that I was staying with, somebody I was working with, somebody that, like an Uber driver too, different Uber drivers. I asked them.
Really?
And they all had like the same like philosophy on living in the city and saying like, oh, you're just naive right now. You just don't know yet, kind of thing. You'll toughen up soon. You'll understand the real world.
To give a side note, there was a thing I was listening to about people who live in New York, and same thing, like just the numbness, how they deal with homeless people. And I was listening to this New Yorker being like, yeah, usually the homeless people are pretty respectable because every season, every winter, at least one homeless person set on fire to set the record straight. Don't fuck with us.
Yeah, we're New York, baby.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus.
Holy shit.
You guys set one on fire?
Jesus, dude.
And
gotta send a message.
Gotta send a message. And I remember going to Denver, and Denver has a really bad homelessness issue too. And I've been to Chicago, besides all those things, Chicago's a really beautiful city. It's such a beautiful city. Oh my gosh. But anyway, side note. So I went to Denver, and same thing, man. Like, I remember just like doing the train that they had through the city, and like I was taking that, like going downtown, having dinner, going to one of the museums, and those people are a little bit, the homeless. Every city has kind of a different way that the homeless interact with people, I feel like. Like, Denver was, like, super in your face. They were, like... It was... I remember walking on the street on this, like, really nice area, really nice street, super nice restaurants, like... And I remember I'm witnessing a robbery on the Walgreens. And I'm watching this fat fucking security guard chase a homeless woman stealing makeup. And it's like, what are we doing, guys? what are we doing? I'm witnessing this just poor woman just stealing makeup. And, like, it doesn't matter her reasonings. It doesn't matter. We see this, you know, this makeup is just fucking powders. You know what I mean? There's really, like, there's no reason to have a fat security guard chasing her after, like, a box of whatever crap, you know? And it was just, like, really interesting how everyone else was also numb to that. They're like, yeah, we see that woman stealing from Walgreens, but, like, I'm having dinner, I'm having my salmon right now with, like, a little bit of asparagus. I can't deal with that. And you're like, you're fucking 30 feet from it. Like, how are you coexisting like this right now?
Insane.
And, like, I love cities. That's where, like, I really do love the whole idea of, like, everyone's together in this hive. This is a hive mentality. We're all, like, we're all connected to each other in some form and fashion, and you know, you got all the money to kind of supply these great museums, supply these great infrastructures, these great, it's really amazing what we can do when we're all together and having this collective kind of pursuit of having a beautiful city, having a beautiful place to live in. But then when you get such a big city, you're gonna have homelessness. You're gonna have people who can't make it. It's like, what the fuck are we just supposed to ignore them? That's a horrible thing to do. You can't just ignore them. They're fucking human beings just like you. They just had a bad roll of the dice.
I don't know what the answer is. That's at the same time. But I just know at the very least we should be mad that, like, this is happening. And it's weird that seems not so much. People are very much, like you were just saying, like, it's happening, back to my meal, or I gotta look on my phone, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the quote from, I think it's called The Network.
Okay.
Some movie, but there's a part in it, it's like everything's just going bad to shit and all that. And the guy, he's talking on the news, and he's talking to the world or whatever. And he says, like, oh, well, you know, you guys are home and you're safe because you're clinging on to your toasters and your TVs and your all these, you know, physical things or whatever. And he argues that we should go to our window, that he doesn't know the answer on how to fix all the problems and the starvation and the wars and all that stuff. But to at the very least, the first step is go to your window, open it up, and yell out, I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore. And people are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And then slowly somebody heard, you know, somebody's doing it out the window. And the other person starts joining. And then everybody's yelling out the window. And I like that a lot, because it's like, at the very, very, very least, we should all recognize that we're mad as hell and we can't take it anymore. And that we're going to now try to collectively do something about it. I know that there's been, you know, legislation to help those kind of things, but I haven't really seen much change, and I could look into that more and see, but I don't know. I think you would like New York, by the way. That is when you're talking about like a hive mind of just learning and growing and trying to focus on whatever pursuit that they have. It's pretty awesome. It's like everybody's hustling on their own terms, kind of thing, and everybody's trying to help out each other, it seems like.
I want to live in New York at least once in my life. I want to be able to, because, you know, I'm an American, and New York is
New York, baby. That's the most American.
It's the most glorious city of America that we have. I mean, like LA, Chicago, those don't even touch what New York is, and it's. Man, I really want to experience it once in my life. Yeah. Once in my life, I'd like to experience it. And it's pretty amazing, man. It is pretty amazing. Just the hive mind, being able to be next to everybody. Oh, have you ever heard about the broken window theory? I guess it's a theory. The broken window theory. No. That if you have a neighborhood, all right, and that has all good windows, but then once one window is broken, and that window stays broken, then broken windows will multiply. And the area, it's almost the idea of like, how does an area turn bad? How does an area become safe, or how does an area go from being safe to deteriorating into an unsafe environment? And it's just kind of like it's almost like a human psychological and weather, almost like a
like a parasite almost kind of thing in a way.
Exactly.
It comes across maybe poorly, but it is like I guess it's something that like something happens, and if you don't address it immediately, it can spread kind of thing.
Yeah, and just the like happiness can spread very fast, but so can fear. And it's like, and I would say that I would argue like I don't know how similar they are like in our brain and how our brain reacts to environments, but like if I'm happy and I'm like, hey Riley, how you doing? Like give me a hug, and like we give each other hugs, and we're like, oh, let's go eat now, and we have a great time and everything's fine. Then we would assume that happiness would multiply. But if I'm like, fuck you, Riley, you're a piece of shit.
You, man.
I never liked you anyways. It would multiply as well. And it's like, and yeah. So it's like, same thing with like, same thing with areas, like particular cities, particular communities. If you have a lot of people being like, fuck you, you piece of shit, I'm going to break your window, I'm going to spray paint your walls. But like, I'm gonna spray paint your walls too, and like, shit, fuck you, and like, you just have all that negativity multiply, just the same way as happiness can multiply as well. And
what sucks is that like those environments are so, like we were talking about, almost like an abusive relationship, that it's like you're surrounded by so much that it almost feels like that's just how life is, that's destined for it, that violence is part of life, and that confrontation has to be immediate, and that you have to stand your ground, but not in a reasonable way, but maybe in a more, I'm going to stand my ground as in I'm going to flip my shit kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of behavior, just like you're saying, just if that's there and it starts growing, it's just going to keep growing, and it's going to cause more and more stigma towards those kind of people, because that's what sucks, is like people can say, the people in those kind of areas need to do better, but it's like, for example, I would have not been able to even go to college if I wasn't told all the information and all the weird computer and sign-ups and all the legal crap and all that.
And having advisors being like, you'll get a better job.
Exactly.
You'll have a better life. You'll know more knowledge. Of course, you should go to college.
And I'm in a privileged position to be like, yeah, fuck that kind of thing, but there's individuals who like didn't even have the opportunity to say fuck that.
Right.
They immediately were like, oh, okay, well, that's just not my life. And that's...
Yeah, my parents didn't
shitty.
Graduate high school. Why should I?
Yeah.
And it's like, and to help out those communities who are really struggling, those like, not to gripe on this, but like Section 8 living and just like people who are really struggling to make the ends meet. Like we really need to educate. We need to have better free education and just be like, you don't have to live a life or we should really have the American dream, right? Like if you are living in circumstances that you don't like, America should be able to have the opportunity in America to be able to accomplish your dreams, whatever your dreams are. If your dreams are only a little condo, like a little house with, just a little bit of land, a little bit of a garden, you should be able to live that. If you want just a high-rise apartment and God forsake whatever city you want to be able to be like part of the main community of this thriving city, then you should be able to accomplish those goals. No matter how long it takes, you should be able to accomplish those goals. And I don't really think as American citizens, we're really not taught the American dream anymore. The American dream's kind of a hokey-pokey thing. And it's like, I was taught the American dream. I was taught that you can do whatever the fuck you want as long as you're passionate about it. If you're passionate and you work hard, you can accomplish it. And you know, that's a maybe that's just an idolizing, like, fictitious thing that doesn't exist anymore. But it's a beautiful theory on how to live life. If you work hard and you're passionate about it, you can accomplish your goals. And that needs to be educated to the people who, you know, might not know that. You know, they don't have anyone else telling them around them that these things can be accomplished. And that's what's great about the internet, is that you don't need to take advice from your parents anymore. You'd be like, there's some people that know a little bit more than my parents. You know, like, let me listen to, like, those, and let me listen to a TED Talk. Let me listen to these psychologists. Let me listen to these really educated people talking about complex things instead of just getting this little sound bite from bullshit news or, you know, bullshit family members trying to tell you how life is. So, like, you don't have to listen to that anymore, which is beautiful. It's beautiful that you don't have to listen to that anymore. And that's a thing that I'm trying to, going back to, like, the topic of, like, fear and happiness multiplying, and, like, how you can be a person who can be easily, like, changed. Like, I guess, like, before, a couple years ago, if there was somebody who came up to me was, like, absolutely crazy and telling me I'm a piece of shit or whatever, and I would have let that affect me before, like, but, like, now I'm really trying to, like, no matter what my day is, I shouldn't really let all the craziness of life affect me. Like, if there's the most compassionate person in the world talking to me, that's great. That's wonderful. You know, maybe I should let that affect me. But the people who are telling me, you know, like, life's horrible and I'm going to go to hell and blah, 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 I shouldn't have let that affect me either. Like, the person who flips me off and on the highway and telling me I'm a piece of shit because I stopped at a stoplight or something like that, I shouldn't let those people affect me. I shouldn't, like, carry all that with me and be like, that fucking person, you know, like, the whole road rage thing, like, you just let it go. Just live life. Just calm down. If you're calm, maybe the other person will be calm too. You know, you can't just be all affected all the time and, like, just getting riddled by all these people's opinions. Just, like, really just want to calm the fuck down. Just, like, really just love life. Life is not long, man. I mean, like, I'm 22 now. It's fucking flying by, and it's only going to become faster. You know, once I have a spouse, once I have a wife, children, a home, a mortgage, you know, I'm going to have a full-time job. Life is only going to get faster, you know, and you just got to take the moments in.
Well, it reminds me of like the well, there goes that thought. I guess it doesn't remind me. What was it?
Speaking of Chicago, I went to this museum in Chicago that was originally a house, and at this house, it was $100 million home. By the time it was appraised a couple years ago in 2000, I think it was like 2016 it was appraised. But in the 1930s, this house was constructed with, like, beautiful white marble, and the house was just unbelievable. It was a 3-story home. They called it the Driehaus Museum, and the Driehaus Museum was such a fucking cool museum. Like, I was there with, like, I was there with, you know, like, one of my girlfriends at the time, and, like, we just stumbled upon the museum, and it was just like, you know, like, oh, this is kind of cool. So we walked in, like, what the fuck is this? And it was just kind of like, you know, we just walked through room to room, and it was the most beautiful home I've ever been in, and, like, marble on the ceiling, dude. Do you know what I mean?
That's insane.
You know how heavy marble is? And for it to be on the ceiling, on every single floor, and every floor and every little bit has like marble railings, and then there's wood decorating all around it, and everything was specially carved. Everything, like one of these statues was casted in China, and then it's like a fucking 300 or 400 pound casting of pure. I really couldn't relay all the information about it, but I just remember them describing them transporting it and all the issues that they had of transporting and blah 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 blah, and it was really cool. Just like it was just so cool just to stumble upon it. You know, I feel like the best things in life are unplanned. Truly, the best things in life are unplanned because you get to experience life. You're like, oh, that wasn't on a Google search. You know, that wasn't on Google Maps. I didn't see that in the tourist list of things to do in the city. Like, I just kind of walked around and what the fuck is that? You know, and it was really cool. It was really cool. I liked Chicago a lot. At least the areas I was in, obviously. Like, the south side of Chicago, obviously, is one of the most infamous areas in the United States of America of murders, which is very deeply sad. So it's sad that I can be like, there was the most wonderful time I ever had.
I know what you mean. Yeah, no,
you know? So it's like there's positive and negatives to city life.
I remember there was a jazz bar that I ran into because I just thought I'd just walk around town or whatever, and I found this.
Were you doing it by yourself when you were walking around?
Yeah.
Damn, that's so weird, isn't it?
Because it's like you almost have your guard up, but it's like, I don't know. I just know I'm really fast at running, so that's kind of a thing. That's why I go into abandoned buildings and stuff, is because it kind of, like, I know that I'll be safe because I know I'll be able to outrun whoever it might be.
Whoa.
Which sucks
like
when you
abandoned buildings, huh?
There's one.
You should hit me up
here
next time. I'll go with you.
Heck yeah, it's really, really fun.
I'll hold my knife close to me. Like, no.
There's the Crosley building, I think it's called.
Okay.
Out here.
There's a few Crosley buildings, and
which one it's like exactly called? It was like bought recently. That's what sucks. I remember I went back and I saw like fencing and a camera, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
But when I was going in there, I remember I saw in that building near here.
Are you ever scared about squatters?
Squatters? What squatters?
Homeless people squatting. Meaning, so squatters is the...
Like sneaking in there for them to live in there?
For them to live. That's what the term squatter means. Is that a person... No. A person who doesn't live there, but is now living there... I don't really know.
As much as they can, kind of thing.
Yeah, so squatters have rights, too. After, 18 months, if they live there without anybody telling them to move, they can technically... They own the place. Yeah.
Holy
Squatters
shit.
have rights, bro. And
I should try that. Just go around. This is my place now. What?
There was one case in New York City. I was listening to YMH, Your Mom's House, and there was a woman who lived in New York. This is a very recent podcast, and she was talking about how in her apartment building there was a high CO2. Like a high CO2 number, like a high percentage of CO2, which CO2 is toxic, and you can pass away from breathing CO2. And she was like calling the landlord, like, hey, you guys have an issue, like I can't live here if it's poison, you know. And they finally got to the bottom of it where there was generators, like gasoline generators running at the basement. All right, and then there was a long cord that went to another building, and squatters were running a generator, the building next to them, and it was pumping all this CO2 because that's the excess, like that's what the product is, you know, like when you run a generator, you get electricity, and then you get CO2 running out of the exhaust, and they ran the cords all the way to their building to electrify what they were living on, which is really crazy. And and squatters have rights. You can't just force them to go somewhere. They have to go somewhere they have to be able to plan where they're gonna go. Like, you can't just kick them out that day. It's like a whole procedure.
Dang, I gotta try this out. Rent's going up, so I'm gonna try that out.
Fucking going up. How are we gonna? Yeah, that's a topic too. Of just like living, dude. How the fuck are we gonna live in the next couple of years?
I really have thought about like just finding like an abandoned place and just like fixing it up. Because I remember I saw, and I mean I don't know the location, so I guess it's actually okay. But I've seen somebody that I know. They have like it looked like that kind of building, like the sections, and they had a skate park like in offices that they basically painted it and they refurbished a bunch of stuff and they have like couches and stuff, and I was like, what the fuck? That's the coolest shit ever. Like to have your own like hangout, but it's like on a different level of like professionalism in a way.
Yeah.
And I've thought about
baller.
It is like, and you have no like I guess laws in a way that's like getting on you too.
Can I tell you my fantasy, dude? My fantasy is that the day that like I can like legitimize this podcast, the day I can legitimize businesses, and I have a little bit of capital, buying an empty office building that's fucking ginormous, and then you can just like. I'll have a little studio right there, but like just having the open space. Yeah. The open space is so cool. Like to be able to just like, because like when you're when you have a film studio, you have a warehouse and then you build the set. So you build like the mini home and then or the mini like platform that you'll film on. But then there's all this other open space for your ability to move around. You can have storage. You can do all this other shit. And it's so baller.
That's pretty cool.
That's the thing about commercial real estate is that since everybody's working at home, there's so much commercial real estate.
I never even thought of that.
Commercial real estate's going in the shitter right now. Meaning that like office buildings, nobody needs office buildings anymore. Like we could drive around right now and I could show you 6 different not apartment buildings, but commercial real estate buildings that are completely empty. Because everyone's working at home now. Like, nobody wants to go back into the office. Nobody wants a cubicle anymore. They'd rather just stay at home and just, yeah.
Well, I kind of now want to buy, like, an old, like, school or something. That would be pretty awesome.
That'd be cool.
But, damn, like, I'm going to look into it. I don't have the money to do that kind of shit, but I'm going to still look into it. That's cool.
I wish I was, like, a little, like, fucking... what do they call it? I always forget this term, but a trust fund baby. Oh, yeah. I wish I was.
We all. That would be awesome.
But that's the thing. If you're a trust fund baby, you never know if you'll have the same inspiration or not.
That's a good point.
Being broke is a really valuable thing because being broke, you might never have the money. Yeah. So like once you have a little bit of money and you lived the broke lifestyle, you'll keep a hold of that money like it's none other. But
well, it reminds me, I've seen like there's accounts online and just internet personalities, and they're just rich people with a camera, and what they make is pretty like just okay. Yeah. And I was like, wow. So it's like a good reminder to me that you can have the equipment of the world. You can have Netflix level budget of stuff and things and whatever you might, the best microphones, best cameras, the best fucking cars, best location or whatever. Right. But if you don't really like what you're doing or like really passionate about it, or I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's really that passionate about it, then you kind of suck. You don't really, I don't know, you don't take it to another level.
That reminds me of, you were talking to me about Mr. Beast and his like his take on how he got popular and like how he had this like group of friends who all were trying to become YouTube stars or like just making money off YouTube. And so I listened to that podcast of Mr. Beast, I forget Jimmy something, I forget what his real name is, and Joe Rogan. It was a fucking phenomenal conversation. I mean, like, I respect Mr. Beast. I hate saying
it is kind of wacky. Yeah.
I wish I knew his real name. Jimmy something. I respected Jimmy. He was a really cool guy, and the way he was talking about like how he runs his business, how he runs his YouTube, how he makes sure that ends meet. That was really cool. All right, like I really loved his conversation because it really was like humanizing. Like it made me understand. Oh, this isn't just a piece of shit. That's like blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like it. There was no assumptions anymore. Like I got to like really witness his essence, but then I started like diving deep into his YouTube videos. Those are tough.
Oh, really?
like his actual Mr. Beast like videos, they're so not for me.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen one in like a very good while. I mean,
they're not for me, man. They're just there's like no substance to it. But like I get it. Like it's sometimes they're cool concepts, and he's getting views.
Yeah.
I can't talk shit about getting views. I don't get views like he does. He gets fucking views, man. So like whatever he's doing, I can never talk shit about that. But it's not for me, which is really fascinating. But like
his target audience would be, I guess, mainly kids.
It's got to be.
Because it reminds me of how like Cocomelon. Heard of Cocomelon?
No, I've never. What the fuck are you talking about?
Wait, really?
No, I got nothing.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure because
no, I'm not gonna.
Cocomelon is like this, like TV program for like kids.
Okay.
And it was specially designed to like attack a kid's senses so well. Attack is a strong word, but to latch onto the kid's senses so well that they almost become obsessed. Like the colors, even the storyline, the voices, and like the line, like the timing for everything too, and all that. And the intro, there was like a little joke online for a while that on TikTok or whatever, of people recording their kids and then they play the intro to the thing. And their kids, it was like funny at the time. Everybody, the person's laughing while they're watching it because the kids will like stand up, they're wide-eyed, and they're like trying to find the source of the sound. And I think, and this is, I've heard of this, I don't know if it's actually true, but that the reaction in the brain is the same reaction that like addicts have to like crack cocaine shit.
Yeah.
As a kid does to this. And tying back to what were we just talking about?
You lost me because that's insane. Because the whole let me go on to this thought is that most drugs don't change your neurochemistry besides crack cocaine.
I did not know that. Wow.
Most drug I was hearing this from Dr. Drew. And Dr. Drew is like this like podcasting doctor who's like really big into the field and he was saying that like like heroin, cocaine, meth and blah blah blah, like they're really horrible drugs. Like you can create massive addictions from it, but if you take it once and then never do it again, you have a lower percent chance of changing your neurochemistry. But if you smoke crack once, you change your neurochemistry forever, and you wire your brain for the need of crack cocaine.
That's terrifying.
Right, dude?
Jesus
it's fucking
Christ.
Crazy because it's so scary because like I mean, look, obviously I'm not going to be like I was really really wanting crack cocaine. Like I would never but like the idea that like there's a lot of times that we really don't know what we're putting in our body, right? I mean, like when I order a coffee, I assume coffee's in it, right? If I order a Coca-Cola, I assume Coca-Cola's in it. We really blindly kind of consume a lot of shit. And I've always kind of had the worries of like, there's even like times where if you get a prescription and you get those pills, let's say like the subscription that you're getting, if it's like an SSRI, like what are those depression pills, like if you're trying to mitigate your depression, or let's say you're taking cholesterol medication or anything under the sun, all right, and your supplier for your pills comes from China. There's times where the residue they'll make different pills, okay, on cycles. And sometimes they don't clean their instruments. And sometimes there'll be residues of other chemicals. Sometimes you don't get a pure substance of whatever your medication is. So it's like, we're trusting these sources. We're trusting these doctors. We're trusting all these food. We're trusting that when I go to, Walmart or Kroger or Target, that when I get my food, it's a good substance. And that the FDA approves it, right? And it's like, sometimes you never know, man. You kind of have to have caution all the time. Because we're really trusting these entities to be like, you are making sure that I'm safe. But, humans are malleable. Humans are we have flaws. We're not perfect. And that's the whole reason, it's the whole reason why we idolize Buddha and Jesus Christ and Muhammad, is because we put these pedestals up to these people that they were almost perfect, or they are perfect. But you'll never meet a perfect human being. Not in this life. I'm pretty sure that I'm never going to meet a perfect human being. And so, yeah, it's pretty scary. And obviously I'm never going to be, I hope that I'm never going to accidentally consume crack cocaine. Yeah. But then,
but I like the random fear, that weird shit could happen. I could see that,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, do you have any friends who take Adderall?
No.
Okay. I have a few. I have a few friends that take Adderall. They have a prescription, but there's a point where you can take Adderall and it gets to a certain point where it's very close to methadone ditryptamine? Methadone ditryptamine? I don't know. I am no doctor, let me tell you, but it's very close to meth. Okay? And it's very scary. That you can just take a prescription drug that's really close to meth. But the thing is, that word, meth, that's a scary word. That's a scary word in our society. But me and you, I don't know what the fuck that means. I don't know what the fuck that means that's changing is it changing your neurochemistry? I don't know. It's just fucking words at that point. But the fact that, actually you can get a prescription drug for cocaine. Yeah. Like
in Kentucky?
FDA approved nationally.
Oh wow.
Nationally, and you have one of the conditions you have to get prescription cocaine is cluster headaches. If you have cluster headaches, you can get a powdered form that you snort of cocaine. Isn't that insanity?
Wow. That is pretty wacky.
There was also another drug that was in the 60s or 70s. That was a what was it called? It was a it was a psychedelic that you could take as a pill form, and it was in the 60s.
Quaaludes?
Quaaludes was a sleeping drug. Oh, okay. But Quaalude, yeah, we could talk about Quaaludes too.
I just remember Wolf of Wall Street. That's why I know that.
Yeah, Quaaludes that was a big deal too. And if you get a Quaalude now, that's an old Quaalude, which is really interesting too. That people still have stockpiles of that shit. Which is wild.
It is
wild. And the whole thing about Wolf of Wall Street too is that people back then were handling a bunch of money and all on drugs, but that was back then. That's not how it is now. It's come on, guys. Things only evolve. Things don't just stop. Things only evolve, and I
can't imagine what they're doing.
What they're doing now?
Yeah.
What are they doing now? Are they just taking speed? Are they taking speed and smoking weed? What is the thing now? And here's it. Also I was listening to a reporter, or I guess a journalist. All right, that was reporting medicinal weed being grown in America, and then once you start legalizing marijuana, the black market of marijuana booms, because it's only misdemeanors that you'll get if you grow it illegally. So once you legalize things and reduce the sentencing of illegal growth, then you have the black market booming, and the whole like the secondary market is like a huge thing, and it's like, yeah, just the world of drugs is ever evolving too. Yeah. It's just like such a deep subject, and how it affects us as human beings and how we deal with each other as a culture while all these drugs are present. It's pretty fascinating, man. It's like you'll never be able to separate the human being from the substance anymore. Like I really feel like that's not going to be, because once you separate us from the substance, we're going to be sober. Nobody's going to want to be sober. I mean, it's the same reason why the alcohol prohibition really was a fucking failure. And we have the prohibition of cocaine, marijuana, opioids, you name it. Alcohol is the only like regulated kind of regular drug that nobody needs a prescription for, that everybody can kind of have after 21. I mean, like, there's obviously other drugs that we can also consume, like coffee. You know, like I'm a fucking addict when it comes to coffee. If there was a drug like coffee that was a little bit better, I'd be taking it. I'm not gonna lie to you, because it's like, it's a fucking amazing drug. Because it's like, they actually started calculating your neurochemistry and how more productive and able you are to, like, you're able to do a lot. It's almost 9% better. Your brain function is almost 9% better on coffee. And the World Drug Administration has these rules for like not contest, but like chess. Chess, you're not allowed, if you're in a real tournament with real chess masters, you can't be on cocaine, you can't be on speed, you can't be on like all these different types of drugs, but you're allowed coffee. And it's like, but coffee makes you 9% better. Like neurologically. So it's like, interesting. And it's like, what is allowed and what's not allowed. It's a very, like, it's a thing that's ever changing our opinion of drugs, because like I find it so funny too when people are like, alcohol's, or are you on drugs? And they'll be like, no, but I smoke a cigarette and I drink alcohol every now and then. And you're like, those are drugs, bro. You're like, what are you talking about? You have coffee? That's a drug too. You know, like, whoa. So all those things are very interesting on just how we really have like a non-awareness of like, or just like an infantile idea of like how things affect us, and we're just like, it's
it's weird. It's like because I'm not like a fan of coffee unless it's, I'm gonna throw around the word that everyone uses, moderation.
Okay,
obviously that's ideal, but
moderation is ideal,
because it's like you get to the point with coffee that you almost then start craving it, and then you're even more tired than you were before.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like this vicious cycle trying to...
Can you fall asleep on coffee?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, some people actually, like my mom, for example, she needs Red Bulls to go to sleep. That's how bad her like dependency on it all has become. It's almost doing reverse effects. And so it's like... It's almost like a detox of anything, I feel like, is important to do, or at least to be aware of what it's doing. Because I got to the point where I forgot how much coffee was affecting me.
Yeah.
And then when I stopped for probably 2 weeks or whatever, and then I had a coffee again, I was like, I do not need all that. Like I can literally take a sip and I'm more worked up and all that, and you almost get more used to it, and then you're consuming even more caffeine, and then your body's like, okay, this is the norm. Oh shit, okay, this is the norm. Oh shit, this is the norm, and it just keeps going up.
That's me right now, actually. I've been on like this perpetual cycle of consuming coffee, but then I have the delusion of that little like factual thing I just told you like fucking 30 seconds ago. Of like, oh, it makes me 9% better. Blah 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 blah. But I'm like, with all the anxiety, like just 24/7, on the coffee. It's what what thing have you like struggled with like I guess like habitual things.
What does that mean? I've heard that before, but I never knew.
Habitual means just habit based.
Okay.
Like my habit base is having coffee. I mean, like when I don't like, I'll probably have coffee 4 times a week, probably, and those 4 times of the week, I'm getting shit done, blah 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 blah. But then those 3 times a week, I'm like taking note that I'm like, oh shit, coffee is affecting me, and I'm clearly like drowsy the days I don't have coffee.
Yeah.
And I take note of it, and then once a day I have coffee, I'm like, let's go,
Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. It just all juiced up from it, and the funny thing about that whole like instant gratification of like having the first sip of coffee and you're like, oh, the caffeine's already affecting me. It takes 30 minutes for caffeine to hit your bloodstream. Right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So my body was really like, what the fuck is this?
Right. So it's like it's almost like placebo, because I have it too. When I first take that sip of coffee, I'm like, I'm already juiced up.
Ready to go, yeah.
And that's a whole placebo.
Placebo's fucking awesome.
I know.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I never thought of that as a good point, that it is probably like, okay, I'm taking something in and it energizes me. Even if, like you just said, 30 minutes later, I didn't know that. That's why my body's like, yeah, I'm obviously feeling it. I mean, it reminds me of, I remember I had a buddy when in high school who like got some alcohol from somewhere or whatever, from my garage. And it was before we all were drinking. It was, I think, freshman year, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember he came in and he was drinking some, and I mean, 2 sips, and he was like falling over, going around. And I was like, okay, man.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I think it's that placebo kind of kicking in. He's like, no, man, I really do feel it. And he's like, whoa, putting his hand in front of his face and all that.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how heavy that, when you have a belief in what you're supposed to feel like under something.
For sure.
Or even, it could be a substance, but even a situation where you feel like it's even, anxiety film, like what you made. It's, you have this pre-set idea or expectation of what you're supposed to feel like. And so when you go up there, you're like, oh my fucking God. But then you start settling in. You're like, oh my God, dude, like I can calm the hell down. This is not that bad.
Do you know who Terrence McKenna is?
No, sounds familiar.
Terrence McKenna is like a psychedelic guru, and he was a big proponent of like natural mushrooms, and like he wasn't I don't think he was a big fan of LSD because it was a synthesized by man and not a human drug. But anyways, he was talking about this new I forget what drug it was, but it starts with a K, and it's like this hallucinogenic drug that's also a treatment for depression now. It's a clinical treatment for depression, and you can go to the doctor and be like, I want this drug, and they will put an IV into your arm, and they will, you'll start tripping balls in a doctor's office, okay? And it's killing me that I don't remember what the drug's called. But anyways, he was talking about how there was, when this drug first came out, and he was trying it, but there was no, like, cultural idea of how, like, there wasn't a cultural, like, understanding of what the drug is, right? It was, like, exactly with alcohol. When I consume alcohol for the first time, I understand how everyone else acts under alcohol, so there's a preconceived notion of how I should act as well. But he was describing how he was trying this, this new psychedelic that was on clinical trial, and he was trying it. He was like, man, this feels like a big office building that's empty, a brand new office building that's empty. I have no idea how to feel about it, because there's no preconceived notions of it. So I'm experiencing it for one of the first times, right? But, no one else really has an open conversation about it. And it's very interesting how socially we can really, like, view these, like, how as a collective of humans we view something and how that will affect our individual decisions. Like under alcohol, like if I drink alcohol, I'm like, fucking fucked up, I'm faded, bro, I'm drunk, I'm hammered, blah, 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 and I'll act in the way that almost everyone else acts under alcohol, and which is really just like
that is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously like the baseline of what the actual physical effect and neurological effect that the things do, but that's so like what society almost unintentionally pushes onto individuals on how you're supposed to feel in that moment. That's interesting. Like the position for him to be in to experience something so new to both his mind and the mind of the world or whatever.
The collective conscious.
Yeah.
I find that to be interesting about sobriety too. How human beings have almost like a very particular way of how to view sobriety. But what if we viewed sobriety differently? Would we all have this like baseline of living life differently? You know, like could we positively affect sobriety and be like, hey, you know, it's fucking sick to be sober. Whoa, like fuck yeah, you know, like I'm gonna give you guys hugs. I'm gonna like, what's up, like saying hi
That's
to your
how
neighbors.
I feel, man. I love sobriety.
Yeah.
I really am. Yeah. But it is, there is a collective view, and not everybody, but it is a loud crowd. Seemingly, like majority of people do not really like sobriety, and I don't blame them to a certain extent, you know, to how it's viewed. I don't know, because it's always under like the synonyms. You know, if you look up sobriety, is usually like boring or plain or dull, vanilla or whatever it might be.
Right. Yeah.
But in my head, it's almost like I think it's like it's raw. It's the closest to the truth, I guess. And it's like, for example, I remember I was talking with somebody that I know, then they were saying that they would like to take mushrooms right before they die. And I thought, I don't blame them. That makes sense. You know, in the final moments, like go for it, you know, just go for something like that. But in my opinion, I feel like I want to face this literally once in a lifetime moment that, you know, Socrates even fucking held his head high when he was gonna, you know, take the drink that was gonna kill him. And it's like, that's, you're about to get an answer real quick of like everyone around you is not going to find this out, and you're about to find out something that I just find that intense and incredible, and I feel like facing that as much as yourself is sober and honest is the best way to go. But at the same time, I don't blame people for being like, fuck yeah, right before I go, hell yeah, why not?
For sure.
You know, do the craziest shit right before you're about to die because, you know, you're about to die. And I think that then goes along with, you know, philosophies on life and all that. But
There's an idea, and I don't know if it's been proven yet, but that DMT is released in your brain as you die. And DMT is like a really heavy psychedelic, like one of the top tier, most intense psychedelics. And there's a theory that it's released in the brain as you die, and that it would almost explain the whole near-death experience idea, that like some people, you know, have the near-death experience of like, oh, you know, I almost died, and then I went to heaven and I experienced my family members, and like I was talking to my family members and I talked to God and blah blah blah, and then I came back. And there could be a scientific way to look at this. So it's almost like, well, your body did think you were about to die. So it went into this natural process of like, okay, let's flood all the drugs that we have in our system, because we are drug factories. I mean, like, I'm getting pumped with serotonin and dopamine all the time if I, you know, and there's just this natural, like, we are drug factories as human beings going through life, and that's like, you know, kind of how we naturally live our sober lives. And for like you to almost die and all the floodgates just happen, like I'm assuming you would experience fucking something, right? If you, it's almost, but yeah, that's the idea. You know, they haven't proven that shit, obviously, and it's a hard thing to prove, because it's like, how do you do this in a controlled environment where you're like, you're about to die,
hooked up while they're about to die, and be willing to
and be like, I don't know how you would witness. You would almost have to be able to witness the drug receptors. You know, like there's you have all these receptors in your brain that absorb different types of drugs. So it's like you would almost have to witness those receptors as you're passing. That's a very hard thing to do in a controlled environment, but it's very fascinating. Like the whole, like, even sobriety. I find sobriety a fascinating thing because, like, you can get as high sober as you, I would assume, as a junkie. Because there's like this, there's these theories that, like, if you have a balanced life, if you have a good amount of stimulation, and you work hard, and you work out, and you mentally challenge yourself, and you physically challenge yourself, you could mentally, quote unquote, get as high as someone who is getting high. You know, with not artificial, but, you know, like with, you know, man-made drugs or plant-made drugs. And that's really, like, that's kind of inspiring, because, like, monks, they have this way that they can basically have a psychedelic hallucination based off breathing. Whoa, dude.
That's insane.
Whoa.
So connected to the world around them. I mean, that's incredible.
Really incredible. And, like, yeah, that still blows me away that they can have this, like, experience off of doing a breathing exercise. Like, whoa, dude. You really fucking know about yourself if you're like, I'm gonna breathe today and I'm gonna get high as fuck. Which is like, obviously. Yeah. And it's like, you know, different strokes for different folks, man. There's a lot of ways to live life, and you can really find full happiness living
and that's why I usually, like, I am not, you know, I believe that my kind of way is more leaning towards sobriety, but I am not the asshole at the party that's like, dude, really, man? You're going to get high on that? How would you get high on life? And it's like, fuck you, man. Like, the hell you doing? Who invited your ass? Like, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And so I do recognize that, you know, it's everybody's got their own approach, and I think, obviously, that's a good thing.
Everybody's just trying to figure out this shit. Everybody's just trying to figure out life.
Exactly.
You know, and they're just trying to, like, you know, dabble in a little this, a little bit that, and it's, you know, like, I'm never gonna be like, I'm not a big drinker myself, but, you know, when I'm at a party, I'm not gonna be like, hey, man, you gotta drink 3 beers? Like, what's going on? You gotta drink 4? Like, I'm not, you know.
Think about tomorrow. It's like, what?
How are
tomorrow you'll thank yourself. It's like, what?
Right. Yeah.
Think about how this is affecting your dopamine, and how actually you're relating it to a previous dopamine high, and that's why you're feeling bummed out right now. It's like, dude, what the actual fuck, man?
Yeah.
Enjoy,
man. Enjoy your life. Okay. Well, it's been good seeing you, Riley.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, listeners, for listening. And I don't know, have a good life.
Godspeed.
Looking for an out-of-this-world poster or some stickers to brighten your mood? Check out the Posters and Prints collection on our website, orugastore.com. Our artworks are perfect for walls, mood boards, and anywhere you want to accessorize. The Oruga Podcast.
Somehow somebody's always looking the other way. Now look at these guys. They look busy, right?